I charged my thing today, but I don't know if it's gonna work. Which one looking in Wednesday? Yeah, I'm not counting anymore for this stuff. I'm done with that shit. That's true. You need to freaking stuff, right? It's swag. This one has stuff on it.
Just get to my board docs and see the first one. Yes, and okay. Welcome everyone. Whoa, maybe a little too loud. It's either too loud or too soft. Let me just fix it. Welcome. Very glad to see everyone here tonight. Please note for the record that the board convened an executive session to discuss collective negotiations pursuant to the Taylor Law, discussions regarding proposed, pending, or current litigation, and matters leading to the appointment or employment of a particular person or persons. We will now call to order our public meeting, and I'll ask everyone to please rise, and we'll say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Always my favorite meeting of the year when I hear the voices of the children saying the pledge as they do every day. It's great. It's good to see you guys. We will now turn it over to our superintendent, Dr. Dolan, for some recognitions.
Good evening, everybody. I tried to get around to some people to say thank you for being here individually, so I'll just say it together. Thank you so much for being here. This is the place to be here in North Shore tonight, for sure, because of the recognitions that we're going to be extending. The very first one is a singular event in the year that takes place in any high school, and that is our opportunity to honor a group of students known as commended students. Please let me read to you the criteria first. North Shore is proud to celebrate seniors Catherine DeTrano, Mark Holm, Ashna Gibbons, Kate Gilliam, and Eileen Zhao as National Merit Commended Students. Being recognized as a commended student is an honor given annually to outstanding students who achieve exceptional scores on the preliminary SAT National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. Commended students placed among the top 50,000 students nationally who took the qualifying test in 2020. Beyond their test scores, they are leaders amongst their peers, high-achieving students, and accomplished musicians and athletes. We are so proud of their accomplishments both in and out of the classroom, and we look forward to hearing about all of their future successes. And what we'd like to do now is I'm going to call their names individually and ask them to come up and join the board president and Mr. Contreras, who is here, such that we can give you a certificate. Thank you personally, and a small token from the district as well. Catherine DeTrano. Catherine, congratulations. Very proud.
Thank you so much.
Good for you. Wait, you can take a picture of you as well. See it right here.
Thank you so much.
Ashna Gibbons.
Congratulations.
Ashna, right here for a picture. That's the token. Thank you. Kate Gilliam.
Congratulations. We're all going to get to know you.
Mark Holm. You're welcome.
Congratulations, Mark.
Here you go.
Picture. Take
Yeah.
a picture.
And Eileen Zhao.
Congratulations to the district.
Two more typical awards, those very well known to high schools, are the salutatorian and the valedictorian of the class of 2022. We're honored to honor them tonight and pleased to introduce them for the very first time, and they are salutatorian Emma Nelson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And the valedictorian of the class of 2022 for Northville High School, Kate Gilliam.
You need a whole pen.
Stay here. Oh, you're good. You're good. We have one other very special presentation tonight, and I'd like to ask our athletic director, Don Lang, to come up and join us. I don't know if I would have been able to present this as meaningfully as I will tonight had I not been at the football game on Saturday, which rest assured I'll be talking more about later. I got to see the Booster Club in action, and I got to see a vibrant group of supporters of this school district who I thought will do anything to support us and our students and have a good time doing it. Well, I've come to learn that there is a gentleman who is largely responsible for that group and was the president for 18 years of the Booster Club. And we have an award for him for 18 years of service to the athletes of the North Shore School community as the president of the North Shore Athletics Boosters Club. And I'm pleased to introduce and give this to Steve Graber. Okay, wait, I think you're public. Wait.
I just want to piggyback on the back of that. Thank you very much to the superintendent and the board of ed. Steve, from the Booster Club itself,
Thank you
to
very
your
much.
dedication to this school district and the athletes here. It is
Thank you very
greatly appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, all set. Yeah. I meant it too. Now, next, another group of honors, an annual occurrence, one that I've come to enjoy very much. You'll hear the word thank you, I think, many times tonight, and we'll talk about the importance of it later tonight. But tonight is also a night where we recognize the Board of Education. I've had the honor, the privilege to serve with lots of boards, and they always amaze me at their selfless giving to a community. They put in more hours than you can possibly imagine. There have been several times today when I have felt guilty, sending an email, reminding them, asking a question. And invariably, the person who I need the assistance from, whoever it is on this board, drops everything that they're doing at their place of employment, at their home, whatever else they're doing, and they serve the needs of this community. And they do so selflessly and lovingly, a word we should use more often in reference to education, because I've always thought that love is at the core of all that we do in education, and they do so lovingly. And it's our honor tonight to honor them in many various ways. I get to start off, and I'm very pleased to read to this Board of Education a certificate from the federal government, certificate special congressional recognition presented to the North Shore Board of Education on behalf of the constituents of the 3rd Congressional District of New York. Thank you to the North Shore Board of Education for your devotion to our students. The value and importance of learning impacts and strengthens our community. Best wishes for continued success in improving education for our future generations. Thomas R. Swazi, Member of Congress. Congratulations to the board for this certificate, and we're just beginning. So I believe there are 5 schools here that would like to present something or say something to the board, and I've already decided, and don't worry, they know. We're going to start with the elementary schools, and we're going to go in alphabetical order, which means that Dr. Peter Rufa of the Glen Head School is the first one up. Dr. Rufa? Up. Okay. Thank you, Natasha.
Sorry. Natasha Gordon, Jill Polinsky, and I are co-chairs of the Coordinating Council for the North Shore Parent Association. The New York State School Board Association recognizes this week as School Board Recognition Week. This is a time to promote awareness and understanding of the important work performed by our school board members. The North Shore District is joining all public school districts across the state to celebrate, and that's why I can't read it, and honor our board members for their commitment to our community and its children. It takes strong schools to build a strong community, and with your commitment to public education as school board members, you take on one of the most important citizen responsibilities, overseeing the education of our community's youth while giving the community a voice in educational decision-making. Serving on a local school board is no easy task, particularly in today's climate. You must make tough decisions every month and spend many hours studying educational issues and regulations in order to provide the kind of accountability citizens expect, all as unpaid volunteers. You help raise student achievement by creating a shared vision for the future of education, setting the direction of our school district to achieve the highest student performance, providing accountability for student achievement results, developing a budget that aligns district resources to improve achievement, supporting a healthy school district culture in which to work and to learn, and much more. The community members serving our district as trustees are Dave Ludmar, President, Sarah Jones, Vice President, Maria Mosca, Richard Galati, Lisa Colasiopo, Marianne Russo, Andrea Macari. We will start with music from our high school jazz combo, led by band director Brandon Bromsey, who will introduce his students.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, Brandon Bromsey. Yep, thank you. Yeah, this is the North Shore High School Jazz Combo. On alto saxophone, we have Sophia Brandamarte. On trumpet, we have Matthew Rodriguez. On guitar, we have Wade Livingston. On the bass, we have Will Winchester. On the piano, we have Eli Wesley Jones. And on the drums, we have Ruben Schoenig. They'll be playing one number. This is I Could Write a Book by the great Rogers and Hart. We hope you enjoy. Thank you.
No. Okay. Um, okay. I'd like to introduce our school principals at this time with their students. And principals, I'll ask you to introduce the students that you've brought with you. Principal Rufa from Glen Head, Principal Finder from Glenwood Landing, Principal Wojcik from Seacliff, Principal Imperial from the middle school, and Principal Contreras from the North Shore High School. Thank you.
Come join me. I'm going to call her up. So good evening, everyone. I am Eric Contreras, principal at the high school.
My name is Lorraine O'Sullivan. I'm co-president of the North Shore High School PTO.
And before we give the gifts, I want to just, on behalf of both of us, from a school public servant to a parent public servant, say that your public service as community members, as elected members of this community to serve our children is appreciated, is acknowledged. The work is never, ever easy for us as educational public servants, you as parent public servants, and certainly as board member community public servants. It is hard, it is difficult, but the journey leads to something very beautiful, and you just heard that on stage. So our work is in service of children,
in service of families, and in service of our future. And our children are indeed beautiful and deserve all the angst and all the difficult work that comes to us so that we can give to them. So our gift to the board members was designed by one of our seniors, and I will call her up here in a minute, Hannah Ikawa. Hannah is a senior, a student at North Shore High School. She actually is also an entrepreneur and has started a company called Imperfect Pots. And today you will receive a gift that showcases her hard work, her entrepreneurial spirit, and artistic talent. She also enlisted the work of her fellow artists in the National Arts Honor Society to glaze the pieces. And we are happy, all of us collectively, to have played a role in some of the talents that Ms. Ikawa and her peers bring to you today. We're also honored that they have shared their art with us. Thank you for your generosity, and thank you, Ms. Kano, I don't know if she's here tonight, but all our art teachers for all their contribution. I don't need to say up here that North Shore is amazing and our arts are spectacular. So one more thing about Hannah is last year, when you walk the halls of North Shore High School, you will notice that there's art everywhere, beautiful art everywhere. And last year, there was a piece called Girl in a Bubble. It was a sculpture piece. And it was so compelling, so powerful, so evocative. And I said, who did this? And I had the pleasure of meeting Hannah and her mother the day after, and we spoke about the piece. And this year, she's working on an independent project in the arts, what we call the IPA, on a multimodal, multimedia exhibit called The Isolation of COVID, which you must see. I would like Hannah to come up and say a few words. So to one of our many stars in this building, Hannah Ikawa.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the whole art department. At North Shore, I've taken studio art, drawing and painting, photography with Miss Johnson, and a sculpture and IPA with Miss Kano. I would like to take this opportunity to thank Miss Kano, which I think she's here live. I don't think she's here in person. But I've had Miss Kano for the past 2 years as my art teacher, and through those years, she and the rest of the art department has allowed me to explore my creativity and allowed me to make my ideas come true. Sculpture class also helped foster my love for ceramics, which led me to start my own small business called Imperfect Pots. Each piece is handcrafted, making them unique and special. And I hope you enjoy. Again, thank you so much for having me.
I apologize for interrupting the program, but we have someone who has just joined us, a public servant, who would like to honor a group of public servants who I think has other visits to make tonight, and that is County Legislator Josh Lafazan, who would like to speak.
Good evening, everyone. A number of familiar faces, but for those of you who I'm meeting for the first time, my name is Josh Lafazan, and I have the distinct privilege of serving as Nassau County Legislator representing District 18. Sorry, I'm a little underdressed, coming straight from the campaign trail, but tonight is really important for me because my career in government got started on a school board. And I thought about the importance of the work that school boards do, and I thought about the number 51 million and what that number signifies. 51 million is the number of public school students in America. And you think about 51 million young people, their everyday lives, trials and tribulations, their experiences, their own journeys. And of that 51 million, the thousands that go to North Shore schools are just the luckiest kids in the world. Because every time I come to North Shore schools, I see the celebration of the academics here. And the kids want for nothing here. And it's because of the work that you do. Your hours of volunteerism, your dedication to ensuring that your kids have everything they need to thrive. And then when COVID hit, making sure you could continue to deliver quality education. So on behalf of Nassau County's 1.3 million residents, I'm actually honored to honor all of you because it's School Board Recognition Week. You have some of the most important jobs in America, and even though it's volunteer, the return on your investment is going to be priceless in seeing your kids grow to do whatever they want in this life. So again, I, as Josh Lafazan, do hereby recognize and honor and congratulate this school board. Congratulations and thanks for all you do, and I'll call you one by one. President Dave Ledmar. And we'll do, you want to do a group picture after? You want to come up now? It's you got it. Vice President Sarah Jones. Of course, thank you. Trustee Mary Ann Russo. Trustee Maria Mosca. Thank you. Trustee Dr. Andrea Macari. Trustee Richard Galati. And Trustee Lisa Colachiapio. I got it? Thank you. Thank you again for having me. Whatever I can do for my office, Tom, as you know, I love this district and it's my honor to serve all of you. So congratulations. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Do you want to do a group shot? Want to do a group picture?
Photo? Yep. Oh, of course, and I'll be in touch. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, Josh. Good to see you.
One last note about Josh's history. Yes, Josh did get his start as a member of a school board, not so far away from here. But I'd like to think that, in fact, Josh got his start as a student of public service in the classroom at social studies at Syosset High School, where he was honored to have, I believe, for AP Government, Mr. Chris Zublionis.
Thank you.
We'll go in reverse order since Mr. Contreras started. Hi, everyone. How are you? I'm Jennifer Imperial, the interim principal at the middle school. I will personally start by just thanking all of you. I don't think I've ever had the opportunity. Individually, I have, but thank you for giving me this opportunity this year. It has been a fantastic start to the school year. The middle school is such a vibrant and exciting place to be, and it has been a really fantastic start to the school year. We have our first E3 day tomorrow that we're really excited for. So thank you for that opportunity personally. It's kind of fitting that I'm following Mr. Contreras, because what the middle school has decided to do to show thank you to you is, we really brainstormed, and there's so many things that we can be grateful for and so many things that we can thank you for. But one of the things that this Board of Education has always supported is students pursuing their passions and being able to really explore anything that they really are passionate about to the highest extent. And sometimes there's fiscal responsibilities that come with that and decisions that need to be made about programming. And one of the things that does occur at the middle school is we are fortunate to have studio art at the middle school. This started a few years ago. Traditionally, studio art is a 9th grade art elective that starts people's arts career. And the decision was made a few years ago to have 8th graders be given that opportunity to take studio art at the middle school level, which then allows them to start their high school career already at upper level art classes. So by the time that they're seniors, they can do what Hannah spoke about and really pursue their interest and take a multitude of courses that they may not have had the opportunity to get to if they had to spend their 9th grade year taking studio art. So our art classes decided to thank you with, here's a picture in a frame with a thank you that was created from some of our art students. And many of them created thank yous. So one of the other thing we decided to do is to make thank you note cards out of some of their artwork to you. So you will be getting a package of thank you note cards to use whenever you'd like, and a thank you frame. But again, we thank you very much. This is a wonderful district that I've always been proud to be a part of, and the Board of Education has always been very supportive of the students, the teachers, the administrators, and it's a great place to be because of you. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeanette Wojcik, and I'm the principal of Seacliff School.
Hi, I'm Courtney Chambers, and I'm the Seacliff School PCA co-president.
So good evening. We are truly honored to be honoring you this evening. As you see in front of you, you have a basket wrapped in cellophane. And as we share our appreciation for you this evening, we'd like to express the deepest of gratitude to your commitment to Seacliff School. Tonight, we're presenting you with a bounty from our Seacliff School Garden. So in your basket, you'll find our children's artwork. Our fifth graders showcased their artistic talent using a log canvas to offer their sincere thank you for helping them grow. A small herb bouquet of lavender and sage, lovingly planted from seeds by our kindergarten students. Lavender meaning purity and grace, which represents the purity and grace of our youngest learners, paired with sage, meaning wisdom, which represents your wisdom in helping our students grow. Jarred flat beans and string beans in a tomato, turmeric, and garlic sauce, grown by our garden club and created by Mrs. Hassani, which represents how you work to bring all of the pieces of what we cultivate together to create delicious opportunities for our students. Rich pumpkin butter, using our garden's Long Island cheese pumpkins, lovingly made by Mrs. Lo Negro, which represents how important your relationship is with our Seacliff School PCA and our Seacliff families. All of these meaningful symbols placed together in one basket to demonstrate the importance of having a Board of Education who encourages the seeds that we want to sow, who provides the resources for our students to blossom, and who celebrates the joys of our completed accomplishments. We could not do this without you, and for that, Seacliff School is grateful. Thank you.
Well done.
Hi. So I'm Bridget Finder, the principal of Glenwood Landing School. I brought some helpers, though. We are going to present you with a tool because we know how stressful your jobs can be. So we're going to present you with a tool that I think will help out. This is from our ruler approach that we've been using for social emotional. And I want to thank you for supporting the movement into using ruler in Seacliff School and Glen Head School. So we're all going to be on the same page. So when they get to the middle school, they'll all have the same tools for dealing with social emotional needs. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Close to the microphone. Yeah, just step up to the.
Hi, my name is Juliana. My name's Caitlin. My name's Ava.
My name's Natalie. My name's Levi.
My name's William. We are representatives of the Dignity Diplomats in Global Landing School, and our school has been using the ruler approach to help people keep calm and be their best self for the past 7 years. This approach helps you express how you're feeling. We would like to present you with a small gift. This one of the tools that we use is called the mood meter. Tonight we want to share with you how we use the mood meter at our school. Each color represents different feelings based on your energy level and pleasure. This line is the levels of energy going up and down. This line is the levels of pleasantness going across. This graph is used to help us identify how we are feeling. For example, 1 in the red could mean you're feeling angry. 5 would mean you're feeling fear. As your energy increases, your feelings can intensify. Another example is if you're having low energy with high pleasantness, you would be somewhere in the green. By knowing the energy in your body, and the pleasantness, you can understand your feelings and learn to express them. You can figure out if you want to continue having this feeling or find a way to shift your mood. The mood meter is designed to help you work to become your best self.
Understanding how you are feeling can help you understand how your feelings might affect others. It's like a chain reaction. If you are feeling an unpleasant emotion, it could rub off on others. If you are feeling a pleasant emotion, it can make someone else happy.
You may be wondering where is the best place to be on the mood meter for learning. You might want to be in the green or yellow. There isn't really a bad place to be. Some feelings are just more pleasant to have than others.
Once you learn how to use this tool, you can even pull the mood meter up in your mind and ask yourself, what color am I right now and where do I want to be?
As PDs, we use this tool to help our younger students become independent problem solvers with conflicts that may arise on the playground. The goal is to have them use the tool to express their feelings when they're on their own.
We hope you could use this gift sometime in your life to be your best self. Any questions?
Yes. Yes.
Even at home.
Mm-hmm.
Nice, thank you.
Thank
you, Bridget.
I just want to tell these young Glenwood Landingers really quickly. My kids went to Glenwood Landing, and at one of a previous board recognitions, my son, who at that point was just starting to play, he had been playing the clarinet. He saw the jazz band perform and said, he doesn't want me saying this, but I want to be in the jazz band. And so he picked up the saxophone, and now he's in the jazz band in 8th grade. So you kids, look out. You're going to be playing a lot of music.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Peter Rufa. I'm the principal of Glenhead School. And as we've all shared with you today, for me personally, it's been one of the greatest blessings of my professional career to serve as principal of Glenhead, and more importantly, get to work with all of you who are so invested in our students' future and have such a belief in the power of education. I brought a couple of friends with me today, Miss Allison Trotta, who is our co-president of the PTO, and 2 of her kids, who are going to present you with our gift from Glenhead School.
My kids actually had to go to viola and cello lessons, which is great. I thought we were going to be their music, but we gave you each so if you head past Glenhead School on Prospect Street, you can see we redid our gardens last year, was our big project. And Miss Rennie, our wonderful art teacher, I love all the shout out to the art faculty. Sarah Kino's a good friend, worked with the students and made a beautiful mural. And every student in the school contributed to the mural. It was super time consuming, really special. It looks amazing. It's up behind the garden, and we had some lovely photos taken of it. And you each have a framed photo of the mural. So something that all the kids went in on together. And thank you as a parent from the bottom of my heart. I know how difficult it can be to volunteer and put yourself forward. And it's been a tough time. And I have really, really appreciated you.
Thank you.
In lieu of the refreshments that we would normally serve you now, we have some chocolate boxes for you guys. Our children and community benefit every day from the hard work and long hours contributed by you. On behalf of the North Shore Coordinating Council of Parent Associations, we thank you.
You want to say a word? Or let me wrap it up. So I thank the coordinating council. I did not know you were going to MC this at all, let alone as well as you did. And I really thank you, not only for putting it together, but also for dealing with interruptions and thinking on your feet. I'm not surprised. I've seen the work that you do. So Natasha and Jill, thank you very much. And let me turn it over to Dave now.
I just want to say this is certainly been very wonderful to see everyone come out and celebrate the board. I am extremely appreciative of my fellow trustees as well. But I think it's worth noting that we as a board are gratified when we see the fantastic building leaders and administrators we have who put this together every year. When we see the kids who come, and I mean, the way you're able to articulate this is just incredible. And the parents and the members of our community who volunteer to put all this together and give your time. There is so much volunteerism and effort and help coming from this North Shore community. It is, it's overwhelming at times, and I really appreciate it. It's moving, and it definitely makes what we do really, we're volunteers because we like to do it, and we like this, and we enjoy, to some degree, setting all this in motion so everyone else can step up and do all the great things that you do. So it's very impressive. We thank you very much. And we want to celebrate North Shore. So thanks, everyone. That said, we do conduct business at these meetings, so everyone is welcome to stay for the entirety of our meetings, but we will move forward with the business of the district and keep things moving. So with that, I will ask for a motion to approve the minutes of our public meeting on October 7th. Is there a motion? Thank you. I hear a second as well. Any questions or comments? Okay, trustees, we're completely horizontal tonight, so if anyone does have any questions or comments, I cannot see you, so you'll have to just speak up. That said, all in favor? Aye. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Dolan for the report of the superintendent.
Thank you. I'm going to make a fairly brief report tonight because there'll be a lot of other talking going on with a couple of presentations. But I do have some absolutely great news to share. We don't rest on our laurels. However, when they are cast our way, we certainly want to celebrate them. And within the last couple of weeks, we've received some really good news, again, about the school district. 4 weeks ago, we got word that the high school was named a Blue Ribbon School, which is a tremendous accomplishment. But the very week after that, a brand new criteria was established when U.S. News and World Report that previously ranked high schools determined that they were going to begin to rank elementary schools and middle schools. Interestingly, the rankings that they developed are based on two areas: math and reading proficiency, or how well students perform on state assessments, and math and reading performance, or how well they perform compared to expectations. These rankings are based on data from 2018-19, and U.S. News and World Report was anxious to point out that that's pre-COVID. So a real standard that we can measure ourselves against. So in the very first rankings ever of elementary schools, imagine how pleased we were when the number 11 school in New York State was the Seacliff School, and the number 12 school was the Glen Head School. Congratulations to those two schools. I also went through that list a little more carefully today to look to see how many schools had multiple schools listed. And boy, you've got to get all the way down into the 50s before you find a school district that has two schools, let alone two schools in the top dozen of New York State. So I don't think Jeanette is still here. Yes, she is. Jeanette, congratulations to you and the entire Seacliff School. And Peter, congratulations to you and the Glen Head School. So happy for you. Additionally, when they ranked middle schools, we didn't have to go too far down the list, and they're at number 30 in New York State. Was North Shore Middle School, ranked as the 30th best middle school in the entire state out of, I think it was about 1,300 schools across the state. Again, same criteria: reading and math proficiency. So it's really based on the work that students do. Congratulations. So just to wrap it up, that means that we have a number 11 school, a number 12 school, a number 30 school, and two blue ribbon schools in the district. And that accounts for everybody. And that's great. And what a wonderful place for children to attend school. Congratulations to everybody, the entire staff, and of course, all the administrators. In sports news, we've got some playoff games coming up. Very happy. We've had a very successful sports season. And in fact, this Friday, tomorrow, There are two playoff games. The men's soccer team will be here at home against, I believe, Glen Cove. And the women will be traveling over to Wantagh High School. I'll be going to that game for a playoff game at 2:30 tomorrow afternoon if anybody wants to join us. And I think the home game is about 2:30 as well here at the stadium. But that's not all. Field hockey will be in the playoffs next week. I got to see the field hockey team out there today and saw all the seniors honored. Congratulations to them. They got the silver medal today. Okay, they came in second. Okay, thank you. But they're in the playoffs as well. So is volleyball. And cross-country county championships are next week as well, including our women's team, which has amassed a record over the last several years of 181-0. If you can imagine that. Congratulations to them. On the calendar, looking ahead, Superintendent's Conference Day will be the Tuesday after next. Dr. Zublionis has put together a wonderful, wonderful program that the board's seen a copy of. The staff who's here, it's something we can really look forward to. And of course, we will report back. And I'm going to save my final piece of my report, which would be about homecoming, for a subsequent report, but that will happen tonight. So if you'll allow me, I'm going to save that for just a bit. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dolan. We have been instituting a new entry on our regular agenda, which is an update on the search for our next superintendent, which I will report on October 13th. And just yesterday, October 20th, our search consultants conducted really all-day meetings with all different constituent groups, tons of them, members of the community, members of our staff, students, just a real good cross-section, and got a tremendous amount of feedback. That will be reported to the board early in November, but the initial comments, which I really didn't want to get, I don't want to get any advance notice. I want them to report them back to the board in full. But I did ask them how the days went, and they certainly said they had a strong belief that people appreciated the opportunity to be engaged in the process, and that apart from all the issues we talk about, there really emerged a strong and important takeaway from all of it, which was a universal respect and appreciation for the educational program that we have here. We talk a lot about finances, talk a lot about so many aspects of the districts, but the actual work that we're doing in the classes, in the classrooms, really stood out to these consultants. And that was heartening because they are very dyed-in-the-wool Long Island educators who know their stuff. There is also a survey online. If you haven't filled it out, it's a great way to give feedback. It's on the district website. NorthShoreSchools.org. It pops up right when you're there. That's closing October 24th, so there's still a little time left, but please get to it. And the next step in the process will be the search consultants will be culling all of this information that they've gotten from their interviews, from the surveys, and reporting it to the board, which will result in the profile for the next superintendent, which will serve as the basis that we'll use to advertise, recruit, interview, and eventually appoint a new permanent superintendent to North Shore. So that is our update. I would like to now call representatives from our SGO, our co-presidents, who are Catherine DeTrano and Noah Glickman. I had a feeling that was you guys. Welcome. Thank you.
Hello, thank you for the introduction. My name is Katie, and this is my co-president, Noah. We're here today representing the SGO. It's really an honor for us to be here, and I'll say, at least for myself, and I think for Noah as well, it feels very full circle to be standing here in front of you, especially today. We were both dignity diplomats at Glenwood Landing ourselves, and we came to the board meetings that did things like that as well. So it's really an honor to be here, and thank you for having us. We're really looking forward to being with you throughout the year and giving our report, and we're hopeful that as presidents, we can have a real impact on our high school and hopefully the district. And to Ms. Yambi and Mr. Ludmar, we'd also like to say thank you for your kind emails congratulating us on our election. But now to our report. One of our main goals this year for the SGO is to really boost the morale and the spirit of our school. We're really, really grateful to be back full in person, after 2 years of hybrid and virtual. It's very important to us that we're back, and we're really grateful for that. So now we just really want to do everything we can to boost the morale of our school and bring back as much spirit as possible, because it is still a challenging time for everyone, and we're just trying to do everything that we can for that.
Yes, thank you guys again. At our meeting today, the SGO approved the purchase of balloons and Halloween decorations for the school for next week so that we can be festive and give everybody something to look forward to. We will also be holding a costume contest next Friday. The SGO us and student presidents will be voting on costumes of kids throughout the school, and we think that'll be fun. The SGO also purchased the balloons and decorations for last week's pep rally. We'd like to thank Mr. Contreras, the main office, and the board for allowing us to have a pep rally. It's such a difficult year, and especially with us seniors, this would be our last homecoming, and we were hoping that we would be able to do something. And with having a pep rally, we just really appreciated all the school spirit, and we thank you all.
On another note, some of our high school clubs have approached us looking for funding to help support their clubs, since there have been a lot less opportunities to have fundraisers in the past few years. So we are in the midst of creating an application process to provide that funding, but we want to do everything we can to make sure it's fair and equitable and every club has equal access to that opportunity.
And finally, starting soon, the SGO will form a committee of students to reevaluate the bylaws of the SGO, to update them, and to make them more current to the way we currently run SGO. So thank you all very much, and have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you both. I will once again turn it over to Dr. Dolan.
So there's a couple of reports on the agenda tonight. The first one represents what may become a standing report because it represents one of the district goals, which is community engagement. And the purpose for tonight's report is just to bring the community up to speed on where we are with that goal. I think everybody knows from previous meetings that we're engaged in tremendous outreach to the community, asking people before we choose to engage with the community how they want to be engaged. I thank Shelley Newman for preparing a survey and a flyer that has gone out to every household, not just parents and students, but every household in the district. The deadline is not until November the 1st, so there is still plenty of time. We have received but a small sampling thus far. 30 community surveys have been filled out online and 7 email. We hope that there are going to be many more than that. Towards that end, anybody who is watching tonight, or here tonight, if you've not done that survey, please do so. We are collecting them, we are reading them, we are looking at them, and you'll hear within this report tonight how carefully we're looking at them. And we will also send out a reminder to the entire community, letting people know. To make it even easier, something we've experimented with this time is a QR code to make it even easier to just take a picture of it, and you'll have the survey right there in front of you that you can complete on your cell phone. We hope people will take advantage of it. It's valuable information. We look forward to the results. I promised I would mention homecoming later, and it seemed like under community engagement would be a perfect time to talk about the incredibly successful homecoming that was held last week. Noah said that they were hoping for something, and I know that we achieved something far beyond something in terms of the success of the homecoming. Quantitatively, there were probably 1,000 people here. At one point, the stands were full. We took a picture of alumni, and there were about 40 alumni, including a member from the class of 1958 who won the award as the most senior alum who visited us here. The Booster Club succeeded phenomenally, almost sold out. Certainly came close to selling out. Many of the PTOs also engaged in sales and did so very successfully. And the carnival that was held beforehand. When I got here, it was already underway. Hundreds of kids having a good time. Qualitatively, I can't begin to tell you the feeling that permeated on the field that day. Joy, just joy at being here. And certainly part of that is an approach to normal. You know, we're trying to approach normal, and you may recall from the last letter I sent out to the community, we're not there yet, and I'll repeat that message again at a later moment tonight. We're not there yet, but anything that we can do to approximate those things that kids will remember from school, we're going to do our very best to do. There were 4 people who I need to thank especially for the success of the homecoming. Marjorie Anderson over in the athletic office, Don Lang, your secretary. Don, you as well. Thank you very much for all the success on the athletic side. Rachel Bowen, parent, who put together the entire carnival. And boy, we were really up against it. We didn't know what could we do, what should we do, and Rachel pulled it all together beautifully and made adjustments. You know, it wasn't the exact same carnival. We had to find some different things, and she did successfully. And finally, again, Shelley Newman. Shelley, who is just an incredibly energetic person who just gets everything done, and we can't thank you enough. And there were many days within the last 2 weeks that extra tasks were thrown you on a given day, and they always got done, and I thank you for that. But there's more to engagement than just that. I think when the board thought about engagement, they were thinking about how they could engage with the community, but I'm very, very pleased to tell the board that the administration has picked up on that as well. There have been a couple of examples that have taken place already this year that I find incredibly impressive. The first is, and thank you very much to Anna Aguiar, who is here tonight. Thank you very much, Anna, for sharing with me and reminding me and the board that we offer a seal of biliteracy that's been going on since 2017. And of course, the purpose there is to be able to put on a student's diploma the fact that they are bilingual. Well, there are some languages we don't offer, and yet those students are bilingual. And so what Anna has done is she has started to put together a group of people in the community who speak other languages, who can come in, to have community members who speak these languages sit on a panel during student presentations, perhaps mentor the student during the culminating project, or even be a resource from a cultural perspective. And that way, if a student is bilingual in a language other than what we offer, we can honor them as well, and we're doing so because of our community, reaching out, building on those strengths, and asking people to participate with us. Another example comes to us from Amy DiMiola, who shares with me that there is a STEM task force, and that over 20 people attended a meeting last week, residents of the district who wanted to share with our STEM experts their expertise in STEM and offering ideas on what they can do that would help students become interested in STEM topics. They might visit a class, they might mentor an older student, they might mentor specific research, an internship, and most immediately, we're going to invite them to participate in a community STEAM fair to take place this spring. So what we're trying to do is to reach out to the community in a variety of ways, invite them in, and make it clear how inviting a place this is. And those are some great macro examples of the community engagement that's going on. But I've got maybe the most exciting example of a micro engagement that's taken place. You probably recognize this form. This is the form that was mailed out to every household in the community, and we got a few back, and Betty brought one into my office last week, and without revealing the resident's name, she had a very simple request. I would love for 1 or 2 boys to help me in my garden. Wouldn't that be nice, right? Wouldn't that be nice to have a resident reach out and ask us, especially someone who had 5 kiddos attend our school. Kiddos, that's what it said on there. Well, I'm so happy that it took me 1 phone call to reach out to Seth Klein, who reached out to Christine Halloran, and that we have found 4 students to volunteer to go over and help with this garden. Interestingly, and I was very pleased by this, the resident asked for 1 or 2 boys, and it's 4 girls who volunteered, which I think is absolutely great. So that's the kind of micro engagement that I'm proud to be engaging in. And if we get any more of these, let me know. Don't get any ideas, okay? We have limited resources, but we'll do our very best to reach out to all of them. So engagement is underway. I will have more data to report on after November 1st, but I can honestly say that we're well underway and that the goal is well known across the district. Keep going? Okay. We have a second presentation tonight. I proposed a topic that we called Lessons from the Pandemic. I'd like to think that what we've gone through in the last year, we've learned from. As difficult as it's been, if we've learned something from it, if it's changed or maybe even improved our practice, that would be great. So with Dr. Zublionis' assistance, we've put together a presentation on 10 lessons from the pandemic. And let me make it clear that this is clearly a Zublionis Dolan production, because Chris really did carry the technology weight for sure. But regardless of who did how much, it's an absolute joy to have worked with Chris on this. And we're going to get up now, go to the podium, and if the board wants to have a seat in the front, it will appear behind you. So we invited faculty to help us with this, and you're going to see many faculty faces in this presentation, whether it's pictures or videos. And on at least one occasion, somebody just sent us a random picture that they thought was particularly attractive. Julie Juanino from across the street from us sent us this picture. And Chris and I looked at it and didn't quite know what we were going to do with it. And then we realized that it was the perfect symbol for the beginning of our presentation. It's kind of a rather drab picture, you really have to look at it. And then, if you look carefully, look what's in the background. Somewhat hidden, but it's there. There's a rainbow there. And I'd like to think that our presentation tonight is a little bit about us looking for that rainbow and talking about those lessons and how we can grow from what we've been through together.
Thank you, Dr. Dolan, and likewise, very much a pleasure collaborating with you on this presentation. And to the community and to our board, we've talked about some of these lessons in the past. I think what's different this time is that we're now trying to apply them in the midst of a more normal school year with typical scheduling, typical content coverage. We're back live every day. And now we're trying to make these lessons real and apply them. So we'll talk a little bit about each lesson, and we're going to also let our students, teachers, and administrators do some of the talking as well in the form of video. One of the most important lessons that we've learned since the summer of 2020, after the initial part of the pandemic, is how essential summer learning is, and not only through the support of our board and community for our summer programs, the North Shore Summer Experience, our summer reading and math intervention and ENL intervention programs, but also just the thinking about summer as a time where students are still developing, growing, and learning, and how we need to continue to provide resources to our families so that they can support their children throughout the summer.
Over the summer, 52 students entering grades 1 through 5 participated in our small group summer reading program. We invited every student to participate who had been in reading support group during the 2021 school year and were not otherwise participating in another extended day summer program. The reason for doing that is that research has shown that summer slide is real. In other words, students tend to regress in reading skills over the summer if they don't practice reading. So we wanted this opportunity for our students who already needed reading support to have more support from a teacher during the summer. At the end of the summer, we knew that our children had had a playful, joyful experience reading with their teachers. But our question was, did it work? So we used a STAR assessment for our guide, which we give ordinarily 3 times a year. So we had results from the kids from June. And we were starting out the new school year with September as a pre-test, but we realized we could also use it as a post-test for the summer work. So what we've done is STAR has a growth report that they do that analyzes how much the kids grew between assessments. So the 50th percentile would be about the middle where kids from all across the country grew, how much they grew by during the summer months. And STAR judges whether the growth for kids was typical or was lower than typical or greater than typical. So we compared the results of students who were invited and participated in the program with students who were invited to the program but did not participate. What we found is for non-participants that 47.7% of them made typical or above typical growth. Whereas for the students who participated in the program, 61.5% of them made typical or greater than typical growth. So the program worked. So thank you to the teachers who taught it, the parents who brought the kids who worked hard, and the Board of Education for your support of this summer program.
In our summer learning, we so much fun because we got to see students from different schools, and we got to read books and answer them, and we got to learn vocabulary and new words. We learned about Acadian. We watched some videos of Mrs. Hackman, and then we saw videos about communication. We read books
Hi, Neil Levy here. I teach health education here at the high school, as well as coach the girls cross country and track team. What I want to talk about today is lessons learned from the pandemic. And the one thing I can think of is about don't take things for granted. And one of the things that I think we've really taken for granted is about free play and for kids to just be outside. And one of the reminders is back in 2020, the summer, when we tried to start opening up, the fortunate opportunity of taking part in the summer program at Glenwood Landing and at Seacliff. And just seeing the expression on the kids' faces, the laughter, the joy, the enthusiasm was really amazing. And then this year, how it followed up in 2021, the kids just being active and really engaging with others was really a remarkable thing to see.
Just wanted to mention also, we do have a lot of data from the other programs over the summer that we'll be presenting as part of our achievement report. And we were able to expand the summer program this past summer to a 3-hour program, longer, thousands of students involved in some way. So thank you again for your support.
Lesson 2, learning outdoors increases engagement and curiosity, is one we've spoken about before and spoken about before at board meetings as well. And I was not here to offer that standard of comparison, and a question was raised whether we're doing as much outdoor learning as we did last year. And while I've seen a lot of it, it appears we are not. It appears that because of some of the other pressures that are now present, that is a full scheduled day and back in school full time and kids moving around rather than teachers moving around, we're probably not doing it quite as much as we did. And that's a lesson that we've learned from this research in and of itself. If we don't become purposeful about it, I don't know if we will expand the program that was begun by the Think Outside Committee, and we do plan on doing that. And rest assured, at the end of the presentation tonight, we're going to offer some very specific recommendations on how we can follow through on some of this. But we are still doing it. We are still working outdoors. Both the high school principal and the middle school principal absolutely love the tent that they have, and I know that those are used. We're trying to find a way to keep the tent a little bit longer because it is being used so productively. That inquiry is already up in Albany, finding out whether or not that tent can stay a bit longer. But we do have some other examples of some outdoor learning that's going on. And one thing that we've never questioned is that both teachers and students enjoy that opportunity. It is a break. And I think there's an article even in Newsday today that talks about outdoor learning that references it just as a mask break. But I think it's more than just a mask break. I think it's a break from the routine as well. And we haven't found anybody who does not think it's a good idea. So with a couple of videos.
Corresponders Tyler, Ava, Ryan, and me, Alex. This is a very special edition. We have Ava with 30 minutes coming from the art studio.
Thanks, Tyler. I'm here with Miss Moran at the library terrace. Miss Moran, can you tell us what are the advantages of being outside?
Oh, thank you for that question, Ava. Yeah, well, you can see for yourself some of the advantages of being outside. We have plenty of space for the artists to work. They're inspired by nature. On a beautiful day like this, isn't it just so refreshing to get the nice cool breeze? It's almost as if it's a studio outside where artists can choose where they're comfortable and share their ideas and just make some amazing things. Thank you.
Thanks, Miss Moran. Over to Alex.
What is something you noticed about all these puddles that you just jumped over? Genevieve? Shapes and sizes. What else? Jamesy?
It had a reflection.
Has a reflection. Rose?
You can slip on them.
You can slip on them. They have to be very careful. Matthias?
Did you get your socks wet?
Socks get a little wet. Well,
When you get close to them, it's kind of hard to see.
they're kind of hard to see.
One lesson that we learned from the pandemic is the power of digital and educational technology. However, we had a lot of burnout at the end of especially the first year, and even after last year when we had hybrid instruction in a lot of the buildings. What we think of our efforts here now is how do we use the educational technology to differentiate for students and really leverage the technology to make learning more efficient, to meet learning needs in ways that we couldn't have before. Things like asynchronous learning on demand, where students can go back and access learning resources to reach mastery. Things like the adaptive STAR assessment that help us to diagnose learning needs with much more precision than ever before. And new innovations from the pandemic and before, peer feedback and reflection. We're seeing a lot of gains in student learning with the help of these technologies.
IXL has been an invaluable tool for differentiating skills for review or reinforcement in math and literacy. It allows us to assign activities based on an individual student's needs, both in class or at home.
As a special education teacher, IXL has been a great tool for progress monitoring and differentiating instruction. The live feature allows students the opportunity for independent practice, while teachers can offer individualized feedback in real time, identify small groups, and provide interventions efficiently.
Brain can provide another interactive resource to differentiate in small groups. It's a colorful and engaging platform that allows students the opportunity to use virtual manipulatives. There are a wide range of options like base 10s, fraction tiles, and counters that are used to gamify.
And those were teachers, Julie Juanino, Beth Papala, and Marnie Zeidel from Seacliff School. One thing that we are seeing is, again, not to over-rely on the technology, but to use it to make learning gains more efficiently so we have more time for the exciting and engaging instruction that we really deeply care about here at North Shore. Another innovation that we were working on before the pandemic was performance-based authentic learning, incorporating real-world projects, real-world applications into learning to minimize the wall between in-school and out-of-school learning so that it's relevant, that it's meaningful, and that students can transfer their learning to the world outside. Here we have Dr. Smythe, who's with us tonight, but on video with our secondary director of English, Julie Ritter, talking about the work that they've done. And they have actually done a lot of professional learning internally for our faculty on performance-based learning.
During the pandemic, our teachers showed true grit, not only surviving but thriving in the face of uncertainty. They learned new technologies and innovative strategies, using creativity and compassion to guide them. One of those new strategies is performance-based assessments. Performance-based assessments are project-based, process-oriented tasks in which students leverage critical thinking and apply it to real-world contexts. There are many benefits of performance-based assessments. As students engage in these tasks, they transfer their learning to new contexts, they make connections across disciplines, and they have a sense of autonomy, agency, and independence. Last year, Carol and I got to work with 2 cohorts of teachers who embraced this new work as a meaningful, powerful tool for learning.
We wanted to share 2 examples with you. A secondary science teacher who teaches our students physics, engaged the students in studying the problems of traffic and traffic patterns outside the high school on Glen Cove Avenue. The students took on the roles as members of a traffic study team. They designed a plan in which they collected and analyzed data on the motion of cars. They presented their findings to the Nassau County Department of Transportation. As an elementary example, one of our elementary teachers who teaches our students physical education designed a project focused on wellness, student well-being, growth mindset, and gratitude. After engaging the students in a series of learning experiences around wellness, including health lessons and outdoor learning, the students were asked to transfer and apply their learning. Each student created and shared their own definition of what a life well lived means to them. We really look forward to expanding these opportunities for other teachers and students across the district.
And this is really important because during the pandemic, traditional assessment just didn't work technologically, logistically. And so we were kind of forced out of our comfort zone and needed to think outside the box about how we assess. But more importantly, I think during the pandemic and even last year, we had to think about the why question. Why are we learning what we're learning? As a social studies teacher, as a teacher of any subject area, that is the question we are obligated to answer for students. Why do we need to know this? And I think the pandemic really forced us to have to answer that question more than ever before.
Lesson 5, teach kids first and students second. That's a phrase I think you've heard me use before. And in fact, I think I used it in my opening remarks to the faculty as I visited on the first day of school. And that's the importance of addressing student wellness and mental health first. We knew, or we anticipated, that we were welcoming back some fragile students, and we knew that we needed to take care of their emotional needs as well as their educational needs. But we believe that unless you take care of those emotional needs first, the educational needs are going to be impossible to meet. Even today I received an email, I think the board received it as well, from a parent talking about stress and the stress that are in that particular case, teenagers are experiencing. So that's still going on, and we're very fortunate to have a couple people on staff who can help us with that. I think the first one to hear from is Dan Doherty, but space? Yes.
The major lesson that we learned from the pandemic is the importance of connection. The students and staff at North Shore have shown such resilience over the past 2 years, but the collective trauma has taken a toll on everyone. In order to recover properly, it is important that we focus on relationship building both in and out of the classroom. In order for students to thrive, they need to know that the person teaching them, coaching them, or working with them truly cares about who they are and what they've been through. Fostering trusting and empathetic relationships will help students and staff recover from the stresses of the pandemic. While the goal is to return to normal as much as possible, it is important that students feel supported and heard along the way. The pandemic also shed light on the fact that while we are a well-resourced community, we still have families that struggle with food and/or financial insecurity. These issues persist as we return to school and should be considered as we move on from the pandemic. The pandemic also brought mental health issues to the forefront. I'm hopeful that we can remove the stigma attached to mental health and really assess systemic ways that we can support student and staff wellness. Thank you.
Hi, my name is David Heinowitz. I am the director of Same Here School Programs, and I've been working with the North Shore School District for the last year. I've been asked to talk to you very briefly about some of the lessons that we've learned during the pandemic and how it impacts the students, the staff, and even yourselves. So for me, one of the biggest areas I want to talk to you about is stress. We know that every crisis has two things in common. They create some kind of loss and some kind of disruption in people's lives. And I think we can think of many examples of how COVID and this pandemic has done both of those things. But what makes this one a little bit more different in terms of crisis is that it's not a one-time event. And the problem with that is there's no line that gets drawn in the sand that basically says, hey, it's time to get better. It's time to recover. It's time to move forward. The event is over. So it just keeps going. So that kind of daily stress can really have a major impact on people. It can also, in some cases, feel almost traumatic to some people. So what we know is the issue with that is that we are still seeing a lot of people struggling with emotions, the uncertainties. What if? When is this going to end? What am I supposed to do now? A lot of questions for a lot of people. So while we're moving forward, school is certainly much closer to what it used to be. And I've heard people say, school's it's normal again, except we're still wearing masks. But for a lot of people, we're all in different stages of recovering from this and moving forward. So we know that there's still people out there that are still having concerns, still having some struggles. We all walk around with this backpack that's invisible. We carry it with all our stressors. So you have people coming in from home with stuff that might be going on at home and bringing it to the school, stuff from the stress from school, going home and back and forth. And it it gets very heavy. It gets to be a big burden for people. So we've seen a couple things in the community that I think you should be aware of, and you're probably seeing it. One, we've seen an increase in depression. We've seen a lot more people really struggling. We've also seen a tremendous increase in substance use, especially amongst teenagers. Binge drinking is a huge issue right now in many places. And so one of the things that we're trying to do, working with your district and other schools and places we work with, is to get people to realize that one of the most important things we can do while this pandemic continues and we're trying to move forward is to not recreate what COVID created, right? All the disruptions in our social lives, all the routines that kept changing. So the more structure, the more consistency we can do for ourselves and for the students, the better they'll be, right? Structure is important. I think the other thing that got us through COVID a lot was just remembering how important it is to be kind, to be gentle, to have patience with each other, to kind of understand how important it is to check in, see how people are doing, see how things are going, and what kind of support. And we need that now as much, if not more. One of the things we talk about with the teachers is how important it is to use social engagement to get kids connected to you as a teacher, because kids are going to want to learn more when they feel connected to you. So that's the most important thing. And then our theme for the year, hopefully that we'll see this get played out, is how important it is for us to rebuild communities, reconnect with each other, and reestablish. So hopefully these are the kind of things that you'll see a lot more of. Hopefully this will make sense. And the bottom line is we're all trying to get through this together. Our goal is to not just survive COVID, but thrive and have kids do as well as possible. Thank you. Good night.
Lesson 6, teaching and leading, researching, solving problems, and innovating in the interest of students, was particularly poignant to us because it contains 2 of our SVOs right there, problem solving and innovators. And the degree to which we've been able to help students develop those skills and innovate along the way. That is, things are, as Dr. Heimowitz said, we're not there yet. And as we continue to adapt our educational system, it is calling upon us to innovate. What I find interesting about this particular video is that it takes a look at a subject area that you might not think would call for much innovation, but in fact it does.
Tell me about how you feel when you play music during a pandemic.
I feel like it kind of lifts my spirits a little bit because everything's kind of awkward right now because I have this and a mask during class, so I'm proud of what I've done so far because I only started like a couple weeks ago and I've only had like 3 practices and I think I'm doing pretty good.
This year has been the most challenging year, and of course because of the COVID and the pandemic and because of the whole structure and the restructuring of the music department, we came in here and had to create a way to be able to teach in a pandemic with distance, in mixed groups, and with students in a shorter amount of time in a different space. And actually it makes the students more resilient as well because they have to hear me teaching someone else, and that part I like. All right, so it's our very, very, very first lesson of the year, and we're back here. Tell me, how does it feel playing?
Good. We haven't played in a while except with practicing. But the lesson, you haven't done the lessons in a while. It's good to finally be back with the lessons and a couple of my friends doing it.
We don't see the kids as much because ensembles have been taken away, so we don't get to rehearse with them in large groups anymore. So we're just seeing them in very small groups, which I think is very good. I think it's brought a new perspective to how important the arts are in their lives, and I see them taking it so seriously too, more serious.
So in lieu of winter concerts last year, Ms. Dalia Rodriguez created the Power of Music videos, one for each elementary building. So I know I showed this excerpt from Seacliff because the beginning of that video actually really captured what all of the videos did at different times. I really think we should send those videos out again because they were just so well done. They really capture the flavor of each building. But what an innovative spirit that we harness from North Shore to create that. In the spring, we had pop-up concerts like you would see in New York City because we couldn't have our full ensembles in the auditorium like we did in years past. And so one thing, and the directors and principals and I have talked about this, leading and teaching now more than ever is about problem solving and researching novel problems that we've never faced before. And it's not just education, it's every industry. Look at the supply chain issues from the Eastern Hemisphere to North America. Businesses are having to deal with things that they've never had to deal with, or at least not in recent history. And so we have to innovate, and really now leading and managing is a process of problem solving. But we see it as an opportunity to innovate and invent creative learning. In addition to needing to differentiate for students, we've discovered, and we talked about this last year, the real need to differentiate for teachers. During the pandemic on March 20th, it was instant that we knew teachers were in different places with things as basic as Google Classroom and how to use Google Meet or Zoom. And so we learned that right away. But it was really a door to open up a new structure of professional learning. We've created hundreds of seats in professional learning workshops through virtual offerings, through in-house workshops led by our own teachers that allows our educators to find what they need to reach the district goals, the strategic plan, and to help us move forward in the SBOs. I'm going to show you a little clip here from Christy Lieberman, who is our instructional technology coach for the district, just talking about how she does this work.
Hey, I'm Christy Lieberman, instructional technology coach. We know that a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work with learning. We know that for students, and we know that for teachers, since teachers are also lifelong learners. Teachers are more likely to participate in personalized PD, just as our students are more likely to be engaged when they get to choose their learning. It is also equally as important to provide opportunities where teachers can continue to hone in on what they learned in their professional development and practice it. Additionally, it is paramount to build in a system of continued PD support, since they may experience challenges with applying and implementing what they learned in their training, and may have follow-up questions as well. Furthermore, teachers need relevant PD training that is personalized to their content area and level of comfort. It needs to be efficient and actionable. It needs to engage teachers. Staying current and effective instructional practices takes professional development. Teachers need the opportunity to choose what is individually relevant to them. As a district, we've done our best to emulate differentiated learner-centric practices that we develop and employ for our students every day. My most successful PD experiences have been built around making sure teachers stay active and engaged. They don't want to be talked at or lectured. It is essential to the success of professional development that the facilitator models best practices for instruction. Teachers are eager to practice and need to have the time and support to apply what they learn. They are much more eager, dedicated, and invested when they know they will have this time. Hi,
And so I just think it's really interesting. A lot of what Ms. Lieberman is describing is what we would describe as best practices for powerful learning for students as well. So this alignment from teachers to students and back and forth is just so clear.
I asked you to do this slide because I did not know if Dr. Zublionis would take enough credit for it. That phrase you see up at the top, trickle-down emotionomics, is something I've learned from him. And I think that is the lesson in and of itself. The degree to which our emotions, our feelings impact one another, whether we realize it or not. The picture on the left, which reminded me of an adapter for a record player. Hopefully somebody else remembers that. Okay, good. All right. just shows the interconnectedness of how how the community can impact students emotionally, how students impact educators, educators impact the community, and just how quickly we can have a positive or negative impact on one another simply by way of our mood, our tone of voice, the way we treat one another. And then carrying that over, at the core of all that we do is wellness, because we don't really see wellness except when it's damaged. But when wellness exists, then it creates purpose, and then purpose creates creativity. The degree to which we owe that to one another can't be understated. And the theory on trickle-down emotionomics, which I am hoping Chris will patent, because he's the only person I've ever heard use it, is very important, a very important lesson that we've learned here.
COVID was really hard on all of us. I really felt safe and comfortable with my Italian peers. We have become a big family, and I always feel comfortable talking to everyone. Like during class, we would sit in a circle and all talk to each other in Italian, or we would talk on Zoom, which really created a relationship between everyone. We had a lot of insightful conversations about our lives and COVID and how even Italy was impacted by COVID. And it was really nice to kind of have a normal experience with people after so many months of being isolated. Yeah.
Spanish class was really important in helping me get through last year. All the different activities and the experiences that we had in class, I think were really great at almost being a distraction through last year. And I really thought like the bonding that we had in class was great.
Last year, I was a student in Mr. Burgos' class, and we had a very positive classroom environment. We were constantly participating in different activities and getting to know each other. We did things like courtroom debates, and we just learned a lot in Spanish while also just like growing together as a family. So it was really great. We even had a group chat. So yeah.
So I think very closely related to that is how we saw during the pandemic and even through last year and now, how challenges and the challenges that we're all facing both necessitate our use of the SVOs and also help us develop our shared valued outcomes: commitment, collaboration, communication, thinking, problem solving, and innovation. All of those skills are harnessed, and we'll be working towards them more deliberately as we move through and past the pandemic.
I'll be speaking about how students grew through the SVOs and how the SVOs were a chance to help teachers teach about the SVOs. So I've noticed over the past few years, students have grown in their commitment to self and others, and that's the most important SVO that I've noticed. Students are persisting in the face of challenges, online learning, remote learning, in-person learning, and the mix of all of them. It gave the students a chance to fail and grow through a process of learning, and it gave us as teachers a chance to learn with our students, which doesn't always happen. It's wonderful. And it gave students a chance to collaborate and help one another as well. It really helped them support one another and help each other through the challenges of virtual learning and also in-person learning, masks, and social distancing. Students also really grew as communicators. They grew in learning how to communicate in new ways, whether it was on Google Meet or Google Classroom or through Jamboards and different various technology, or it was communicating through a mask and using our eyes to smile or using hand motions to help other classmates understand what we were saying. It's been really powerful to watch students grow as communicators and make sure that their message is getting across clearly to others. And finally, and as I mentioned previously, students have grown as collaborators, and we're building a virtual community or an in-person community where we're socially distanced. And they collaborated to make sure that each one felt safe, encouraged, and inspired through all of these new challenges that we were facing.
And that's fourth grade classroom teacher, Lindsay Fibus, who was also the fourth grade, fifth grade, fully remote teacher last year for our remote program.
And the last lesson, specifically to us, we certainly have a lot to be grateful for in the North Shore schools, but I think the lesson generically is one of gratitude, taking that moment to appreciate what we have. I'm sure we all had that experience during the pandemic and still have, when we've missed something or we've noticed that something's missing and maybe not longed for it in the case of traffic, for example, but we certainly know that it's not there. So gratitude, taking that moment to reflect and to appreciate what we have is a very important lesson to us. Here's a collage of some pictures with a song, and I'll explain the song in just a minute. So if you don't know that song, it is Renee and Georgette Magritte and their dog after the war. And one of the interpretations of that song is that Renee and Georgette Magritte, Renee Magritte, of course, a famous artist. I'm wearing a tie with a piece of Magritte's art on it. It's not why we chose the song, though. They had a dog as they were growing up, or as they were married in France, occupied France in the 1940s. And because the answer to so many questions was après la guerre, after the war, that's what they named the dog. How often in the last few months, the last 18 months, have we said, all right, when the pandemic's over, when will we do that? Well, we're going to have to wait. We're going to do it when the pandemic's, when it's over, when it's over, when it's over. And some things can wait. Some things can wait, yes, and some things will have to wait, but some things can't wait. And there's a lot of things that we've embarked upon that can't wait, including taking care of our kids. But I think the message we'd like to impart is that one of the things that we can't wait for is gratitude. And that's that opportunity to say thank you, that opportunity to appreciate what others do. And if there's a theme to tonight's thank yous to the board, I would also like to propose that part of this presentation tonight is to remember to thank teachers and coaches and nurses and our principals and our assistant principals and our aides and our administrators, our custodians, our groundskeepers, our musicians, our parents, our students, to say thank you to them for all that they are doing to get us as close as we possibly can to that normal that we're all striving for and that we all aspire to. But there are some discrete lessons, and we'll show you those right now and wrap the presentation up with what those lessons are and what actionable items we think we have.
Thank you, Dr. Dolan. And I also, too, want to thank the teachers, the principals, our directors, and our students for contributing to the presentation. And we always try to give the board and the community a lens into the schools that they might not have on a daily basis. And we'll continue to do that with our achievement presentation in November. And so we have some really concrete takeaways. We've talked about the goal of achievement of engagement this year as taking actionable steps, not just researching, not just having committees, but really taking actionable steps to make progress. One area where that's so necessary is in mental health, certainly related to engagement. And we need to ensure that mental health needs are destigmatized and that students have easy access to mental health support. We have added social work support through our Carissa funding, and we're continuing to work with Mr. Doherty and our school psychologist and mental health team and our director of special education to make that support more accessible. Focusing on relationships, and that starts with our administrative team, with each other, with our teachers, back and forth, that iterative process of trust, of building well-being and collaboration in the North Shore schools. Taking concrete steps to increase in line with the board goals, student engagement, through performance-based assessment and outdoor learning. Those are two major levers to increase engagement. And one thing, as per Dr. Dolan's comments about how we are now returning, we're seeing a bit of a decrease in outdoor learning because we're returning now to normal, quote unquote, normal school, pre-pandemic school. I think what we need to do as a district is support teachers through curriculum writing and professional learning. And we did so much outdoor learning last year, but there's a lag between what me and I, as the head of professional learning for the district, can provide. So we need to provide more of that and more dedicated curriculum writing time so that teachers can make meaning through the outdoor learning and integrate it into their curriculum. To continue to build structures to personalize student and teacher learning, which we're doing through our STAR assessments, through training of teachers and our administrators. To continue to embrace novel problem solving in teaching and learning as a source of institutional learning and innovation, to continue to solve problems, to find positive solutions and create new opportunities. To continue to view summer learning as an essential part of the journey through the North Shore schools for all students. And that includes not just our summer program, but free resources that we as a school can provide to our parents through our curriculum maps that we're going to be publishing in a couple of weeks, through other resources that can help guide parents throughout the year and in those off times of the school year. And finally, to leverage appreciative inquiry. One of the most powerful things that I've seen here at North Shore is that teachers really do learn from each other, and we learn from each other in neighboring districts in terms of what we share. We call that appreciative inquiry, really focusing in on what's working and trying to replicate that in areas where we might need to grow more. So for example, with engagement, this really applies to all the other 6 takeaways. With engagement, what are those most engaging classrooms? Where are our students reporting? Just in their own voice, where they feel most engaged. Once we know that, how do we replicate that into other areas of the district and the school? And sometimes that is the quickest way to make progress. So thank you again. Thank you, Dr. Dolan, for the collaboration. And we look forward to the year ahead. Thank you. Likewise.
All right, thank you to Dr. Dolan and Dr. Zublionis for that presentation, which was, it's, I think one of our, we had so many meetings in this room talking about, if there's ever an end to the pandemic. And of course, the end is not here yet, but the idea that we could even talk about it in the rearview mirror as lessons learned from the pandemic that we're applying today in, it's not quite the end, the denouement of the pandemic, hopefully, is really inspiring. But those lessons are important because a lot of them, you have to find the opportunities in these traumas and these traumatic situations to grow yourself for the future once they're behind you. And I think that you really highlighted a lot of those in that presentation. So I want to turn it over to my fellow trustees. If any of you have any thoughts for Dr. Zublionis, affectionately certainly as Dr. Z, and Dr. Dolan. And again, I can't see you, so please turn on your light and jump in if you have something to say. Sure.
The presentation was great. It is so nice to see pictures and videos of what happens in the school. Watching it, I kind of forgot how absent I've been inside a school for so long. So it was nice to see that again. I'm so happy we talked about outdoor learning, of course. And I just want to say, I think our outdoor learning program doesn't have to be limited to our outdoors at North Shore, that we have to really get the field trips going again. There's so many opportunities close by here on Long Island, and I feel that that was one part of the education experience over the last 2 years that really has been lacking. For good reason in many ways. But I think now that we're back, we have to make a conscious effort to get the children on field trips. The other thing I was interested in just mentioning a little bit more is the performance-based learning. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, Chris. I think that we need to do more of that, more authentic learning. And I think in many ways it's more important now as we incorporate so much digital learning into the curriculum that it's one way to offset all of this iPad time and Chromebook time. So I hope that we can come up with some real goals related to that. I was actually, when you were talking about it, I was thinking I would have loved to have thought about that as a district goal this year because I think it's that important. So maybe we need to keep it on our radar as we move forward.
Thank you, Trustee McCary. Sorry, Trustee Mosca.
Thank you, Dr. Z and Dr. Dolan. This was great. I want to echo what Andrea said about outdoor learning. It's definitely a key factor for me. And but I won't repeat everything. It was just terrific to hear it mentioned in several of the lessons, and really looking forward to building on that. There was one other thing I wanted to highlight that I heard you say, Dr. Z, and I'm not sure I totally got what you're thinking about, but there was a reference to I thought there was a reference to parents, to teaching parents certain things, or to involving parents in the learning that their children are doing, and it sounded like a really interesting thing to explore a little bit more of. I was just kind of fascinated. I've often had the experience, speaking only as a parent, of really wishing I could be a little bit more aware of what my daughter's learning so that I can be reinforcing it a lot. And there's so much we have to learn.
I think there's a real nexus between the community engagement goal and the student engagement goal. And when you think of things like what the directors have done with these public-facing curriculum maps that we'll be sending out shortly, we're finalizing them now and uploading them. It just gives a lot of information that you might not necessarily have. It's easily accessible, and it provides parents the opportunity to ask questions. It might lead to a better discussion with their child's teacher. But in addition to that, resources that help during the summer months. I think too, it connects to what Dr. Smythe and Ms. DiMiola are doing with the STEM task force, what Ms. Aguiar is doing with the seal of biliteracy and the languages we don't offer, and that parents and community members can really play a role in being a part of our students' education.
Yeah, those were both really thrilling examples, actually. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Down at this end. Yep, thank you.
Okay, I can't see, so, and I don't want to cut anyone off.
I saw your finger hit the button, so I know you're.
Okay, thank you. So I want to talk about the mental health aspect for a minute, about the pandemic and depression. I'm a mother of a child who graduated in 2014. Around that time, in the space of a year, we lost approximately 7 students. And I just recently attended a funeral for a former student. It's heartbreaking. I can't even tell you how heartbreaking it is. And I've been stewing on this for the past few days because we haven't really talked a lot about that. We've had so many other things on our plates, and I can tell you at that time, as having been active in the PTOs, we did a lot of presentations. We had Dr. Dewey twice, we had Bobby Petrocelli twice, we had the POP people in, we had the Nassau County Police and DA's office in on social drinking. Yet, in my daughter's year, we buried a child from addiction. We buried a child who was run over by a car walking home from a party where alcohol was served to minors. And we buried a child who was killed in a driving accident where another student was hospitalized. So it's not that we should give up, not that we shouldn't continue to do that, but I think we need to think of other ways to address it. And we know that addiction, as was mentioned here, and alcoholism and drug addiction really stem from mental health issues. So I was thinking about what parents have said to me who have lost their children. And one of the things they said to me was, there's not enough health insurance. There's not enough health insurance for coverage for therapy. There's not enough health insurance to cover these children for significant periods of time of inpatient treatment. They get their treatment, they're released too soon, they're put back in the environment where they came from, and they succumb once again to addiction. The other thing is the facilities where they place these children, they're often placed with adults. So if they didn't know how to get the drugs and evade the system before, they certainly know when they get out. So we were talking about what LAC could do. And I was thinking if there was a way we could have LAC and CASA work together to work on legislation that will provide better mental health coverage for our children, better therapies, better treatments, better facilities. It's imperative in an environment now where we're hearing kids talk about depression, that we get these kids the proper treatment, because I can't go to another funeral. I just can't do it anymore. And I don't know what the answer is, but I do think that insurance companies need to provide better coverage for our children. If somehow we can leverage our position with LAC and our cooperative work with our legislators, and we can get CASA involved in that and work collaboratively on what programs they present. And there are other community members who have been very active. We have a social worker here at North Shore that comes out of a drug rehabilitation setting where she's worked in that setting, not that she's been in one, where she's worked in one. And I think we have a lot of resources here. And I think I was going to raise this under old business, but it seemed pertinent in light of the presentation that we think about, put that back on our agenda, because it seems to have been put on the back burner. What are we doing to help our students? How are we catching students that we feel are falling? What interventions are we giving them? And what can we do even outside the school to advance their treatment and their recovery?
Thank you, Trustee Russo. Trustee Colasiopa?
Thank you. Well, I definitely agree with my fellow trustees. All of those are extremely important points. And, to Mary Ann's point, number one was access to mental health support. And I do agree that that is extremely important. And substance abuse is obviously a huge issue. So I just want to thank Dr. Dolan, Dr. Zublionis for that presentation. I think it was just excellent and gave us a lot of insight into what's been going on. I also was really intrigued by the performance-based learning, and I love the traffic study that Dr. Smythe mentioned. I think that kind of project-based learning is those kids are going to remember that as opposed to memorizing, some facts out of a book, and that kind of learning is just, a key to creating, to fulfilling our SVOs, which I'm so glad you mentioned so many times also. So definitely interested in more of where in the actionable items where the performance-based learning comes in.
Trustee Jones?
I think you're right. It's down to me. Thank you for the presentation, for the tremendous amount of work that obviously went into that, but moreover, thank you to all of our educators for all of the work that went into us being able to have a presentation like that, which was based entirely on the things that all of you have accomplished during the pandemic. So thank you for that. To Marianne's point, prior to the pandemic, we were extremely focused on substance abuse issues. It was very much the front burner issue, and I'm concerned it will necessarily become so again, and it should become so now. And it clearly ties into not just the mental health issues, but the other thread that's been running through these meetings for a while, which is the data that we have on student engagement and the urgency with which we need to address that piece too. I was going to say, in terms of silver linings from the pandemic, I think our ventilation upgrades aren't of the same caliber as the other things we've been talking about, but are nonetheless still important, not just in terms of like future flu and cold seasons, but just in terms of air quality impacts how healthy our children and our staff are going to be and how productive as well. I think there's a very interesting question around the fact that we have a lot of capacity now in terms of virtual learning, and it's clear that we prefer and value the in-person learning, but I think it's interesting to think about if there's still ways to leverage the virtual capacity. What if you wanted to have a joint class with students in a different school district or someplace else, right? It's a way where the trade-off between the in-person and the virtual can make sense. And I think finally, there were some social positives. The thing that keeps coming to my mind in that regard is the middle school graduation last year had such terrific student speakers. And one of them spoke about how eating lunch outside was so great because instead of having to go into the cafeteria where the tables all have a specific number of chairs and negotiate that social environment during those middle school years and finding a space at a specific table, that all that went away because the outside was wide open. You just went and you sat outside, wherever, with whoever, without the artificial constraints. And that social piece was just, plus the student being so articulate about it, was just a really interesting part of the silver linings for me. But most importantly, that was a much more impressive list than anything I could have come up with. And thank you all for that.
Thank you. Did I miss anyone down here?
Yep.
Please.
Dr. Zublionis, Dr. Dolan, thank you very much for the presentation. It was wonderful. The teachers and the administration put in tremendous amount of work over the last 2 years in coming up with alternate ways to provide instruction and to provide assessments for the students, and the work that they did is laudable. I'm just wondering now, particularly for some of the younger faculty, if some of the things that they were doing are going to be not necessarily put to the side, but I'm concerned about them being, quote unquote, worried about the fact that now certain of these courses are going to have external standard exams. And now the students really aren't used to those kinds of assessments anymore. And I'm concerned about what kind of support we're giving to the students and to the faculty to sort of transition, because I don't really, I think we need to keep lots of the things that we did over the past 2 years and keep growing from that. But my concern is, based upon the nature of the beast, certain people will probably be afraid that at the end of the year, when this exam or whatever comes up, those assessments are not going to be what was needed to prepare them. So I'm just concerned in terms of how the district is going to support both the faculty and the students to continue to do creative things.
Thank you, Rich. I appreciate the comments of my fellow trustees. I just wanted to add, picking up on one of the themes of the presentation, the idea of being grateful for what we have. I am, first of all, I'm grateful for Dr. Zublionis to put that together and to be so reflective about what we've been doing. The idea of resting on your laurels, I don't know if you know this, but that is a concept that some people in this world do employ, but you don't seem familiar with that, which is really something I'm grateful for. I am very grateful that Dr. Dolan is here with us to provide your experience. I have already just enjoyed working with you so much. And the fact that you know what this is all about, that this is about kids and this is about their health and their well-being, and that drives your actions. But I also, one of the things that I came into this with, that I wanted to mention today, was being grateful to the person who doesn't get mentioned enough, which is Livia Boazzi and the financial management of this district, because the reality of this is none of this happens if you're not keeping things so strong. We were able to fund these initiatives. We were able to fund better ventilation. We were able to fund keeping our classrooms open in a way that almost no other Nassau districts did, so our kids could have in-person learning last year, because of the financial decisions that have been made and supported by this community, thanks to the leadership of this board with your guidance for many years, that enabled this. So I think it's worth recognizing that, Olivia, and I'm grateful for that as well. That said, we will now move back to our regular agenda, and we'll move on to comments from the public. Our podium is here. We invite those who are here to share, just say your name and town of residence and share your thoughts on any district-related topic. That's fine.
Hello. Paul Pascolgen from Glen Head. Great stuff tonight, so I appreciate all of that. I did want to mention the work that the board is doing on community engagement, and appreciate the outreach that you are doing. But I do think you're missing the mark. There's a good portion of this community that believes that this school district spends too much money and taxes are too high. And I don't think, if you can't figure out a way to change their mind or to change that dynamic, then you're never going to get that portion of the community. That's not what I came to talk about, but I did want to mention it. What I did want to talk about was audit. I've been at this podium many times talking about concerns about oversight of the district and the financials and the district's financial management. The response has always been that the district has multiple levels of oversight and checks and balances. So I thought I would look. So recently, through a FOIL request, I received the district's internal audit reports and the audit committee meeting minutes. The fact that I actually had to get those through a FOIL request is a whole nother discussion. These are audit reports from 2018 and 2019, And all of you are on the audit committee, so you've read them. The ones of you who are here, you read them. So Dave, I'm sure read them. Sarah, I'm sure. This is the audit report from 2018. The district had 4 areas tested. This is the audit report from 2019. The district had 5 areas tested. 3 of the areas that were tested in 2018 and 2019 were the same. And as a matter of fact, 2 of the areas tested, the information in the audit reports were identical between 2018 and 19. Identical, word for word, copied and pasted between 2018 and 2019. When you tell this community that you have multiple levels of checks and balances, is this what we should expect? Auditors that you oversee copy and paste information from reports from year to year? We actually paid for these? We paid? The taxpayers paid for these? Please commit to do a better job of oversight. As I've said here many times before, this community deserves a lot better. I also wanted to come back to the FOIL request, freedom of information. Myself or anyone in this community, for that matter, is entitled to information. You might not like giving it, but we're entitled to it. Between July 1st, 2020 and June 1st, 2021, the district received and answered approximately 20 FOIL requests. Every FOIL request was answered by the district records officer, except the ones from myself and Jerry Romano. Those were all answered by the district lawyers. Why the double standard? Are the lawyers doing something special with our FOIL requests? Are they deciding what information to provide us and what not to provide us? Who knows? Why? Every FOIL request from Jerry Romano and myself were handled exclusively by the district lawyers. Why did the district choose to use the most expensive possible way, to answer a FOIL request, especially a request asking for some audit information and committee meeting minutes? To me, this is just another example of double standard and blatant financial mismanagement by the district and a complete disregard for hardworking taxpayers in this community.
Thank you, Paul. I'd like to respond to some of those.
Sure.
First of all, to your first point, I believe what you're saying is that this community, the school district hasn't done a good enough job convincing this community that we've been doing an honest, fair financial job at running the district's finances. I'm going to be clear, but also respectful in saying that you individually have done a tremendous effort to tell the people of this district untruths about the financial management.
Paul,
I am not attacking you.
Why are you sitting here attacking me?
Paul,
is this how you answer the community, attacking me?
Paul, you sat here.
You're attacking me.
Paul,
I'm not going to stand for you to sit here and tell me that I'm lying to people.
Paul,
I won't stand for it.
Paul, you can stand, you can sit. I listened to what you had to say, and I'm going to respond.
Here's the audit report.
Paul,
you can look at it.
Paul, no. Paul, we're not doing this. I've seen them, of course, as you know, because our audit meetings are public and recorded and live streamed. To continue, Paul, you have been telling this community, for example, that the district illegally ran an election. You have said that the candidates up here illegally got information. You have made an appeal to the commissioner of this state. For a year and a half, you told the people of this community as if it was fact.
It is fact.
Paul,
it is fact.
Paul, I respectfully sat here and made notes while you spoke,
fact.
so
What
I
does
could
that
respond
have
to
to
you.
do? What
Paul,
does that
does
have
it-
to do with the audit reports that I just discussed
Paul?
And the FOIL request that I just discussed.
Paul?
You're sitting here attacking me. Is this what you do to community members?
Paul?
You attack me sitting at the desk there?
Paul, every one of these meetings is recorded. The community can see it. And I will continue to say that for a year and a half, when you talk about attacking, you impugn the reputation of people who've worked here for decades. You made up accusations about the head of the teachers union who's been a teacher in our district for decades. You made accusations against people who have lived here their lives and have volunteered to serve on this board. You filed a commissioner's appeal. You told the community that it was true. For a year and a half, you built a coalition of distrust based on those stories. About 3 or 4 weeks ago, maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, or whatever it was, the commissioner ruled on your appeal. And the commissioner of the state of New York said, in no uncertain terms, this commissioner's appeal is rejected on not just on the way it was filed, although they said because of the way it was filed, it had to be rejected, but she went on to say that it was rejected on its merits completely, and that it was baseless. When you talk about us not doing a good enough job of convincing the community of what we're doing, we are up here running this school district. We are doing all the things that you've seen on that video, which is the very, very tip of the iceberg of what we do every day. We do not have the resources to also fight against coordinated misinformation campaigns that are funded and distributed to the community, telling misinformation. It's just the reality. So that's number one. Number two, regarding the audits, I don't know how familiar you are with the audits or other audits you've read, but certainly any audit you read from year to year, some part of it is boilerplate, not about our district in general, but the laws of New York don't change that much. The laws of New York that have changed regarding finances and regarding accounting and the GASB standards have all been outlined to us explicitly by our auditors as part of the audit every year. There is nothing about the financial condition of this district that has been photocopied or is improper. And so rather than just going up there and saying that, which again is an accusation that sounds good but builds distrust, it's not actually true. The third thing I want to say regarding the foils, I would love for you to show what those foils look like, the questions in the foils. It's not, hey, can you send me the report? It is asking for tens of thousands of pages, which have to be looked at by our lawyers. You asked for records. We sent you tens of thousands of pages. In those pages, despite the careful efforts, which takes time, money, and personnel to redact people's private information, one name got leaked. What happened to that, Paul? What happened to that one name? What did you do with that one name? Correct. So you foiled, you got tens of thousands of records, and you found one they forgot to redact, and you went and told them, look what we did, we found the name. And you wonder why we're hiring the lawyers to make sure we don't do that with tens of thousands? These people are keeping our children safe and educating our people and keeping our teachers and faculty working. And they should also be going through tens of thousands of papers. The reality is, it's the law, and I support the law. I think FOIL is good. It's good to have watchdogs going at this community. But let's not stand up here and say, I don't know why you're just not fulfilling my simple requests. I don't know why you guys just can't be honest and come forward. We don't have the resources or the manpower or time that clearly you do to build that distrust with stories in this community. I have been up here for hours and hours and hours of my life, which I volunteer for and I'm happy to do. And I'm proud that people of this community have given their respect to me to do that. But my experience up here and what people think of me, Paul, not everyone, nothing's universal, but generally, even people that disagree with me, even people that came up here and yelled at me and called me names at that meeting the big meeting that was here about masks and going back to school, I believe that generally people think of me and this board as being respectful and making decisions. And even if they don't agree with them, they don't think that we're up here willy-nilly filing false audit reports and then having a camera live streaming the results. That's just not what's happening, Paul. Public comment. Who's up next? Now, Mike's going to tell me I didn't flip the burgers well enough at homecoming.
I'm Mike Conklin. I'm the president of Booster Club, resident of Greenvale. On a nicer note, I wanted to thank the superintendent and the board for recognizing Steve from the Booster Club. I also want to thank Maria and Dave who volunteered at the Shack. And sports-wise, I want to say that it was with great speed that we were able to get our field back in shape, and that's because of you guys. And the staff, obviously, and the contractor. But I really appreciate it. I appreciate what you're doing. And I also, I appreciate the engagement you just had. I really do. I think the board needs to stand up for itself, and I think you're doing a great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Jerry Romano, Seacliff. Hey, Dave. How you doing? We recently got good news from the Comptroller of New York State that the amounts needed to fund the ERS, Employee Retirement Reserve System, which is not the teachers' portion, it's the other part, the people who aren't the teachers in the district, the amounts needed are going to decrease. It's about $1.8 million a year it's budgeted at, approximately. It is. Do you know how much it's going to go down?
That's a good question, but the budget season is close. I can see it on the horizon, but not quite here yet. So we don't know yet the answer to that.
Okay. So now that amount is going to go down, which means there's not going to be an increase for weeks, years, for years. It's averaged over years, right?
It is a rolling average. That is correct.
All right. So there's over $5 million, I think $5.3 million of this community's money in an ERS reserve, which is a contingency account. It's not the reserve. It's a contingency account in case a bill comes in from New York State that's going to be larger than what's been budgeted, right? That's how I
Again,
understand.
I don't want to get talking to Q&A, so you could
No,
just...
but that's my understanding is $5.3 million of our money. $500 of that is mine. $500 of anybody who lives in this community as an average. That's their money. You don't need it. Why do you have it? You're not going to get an increase in that expense line. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen for years. That money's been sitting there for years. So why isn't that money being returned to us in the tax levy?
So I think the general answer to that question is, I'm not going to talk specifically about that reserve and specifically, but generally the reason you have reserves, and our reserves, as I think you know, are about the middle of the county average, not too high, not too low, they're kind of right there. But generally having reserves are things, not that specific reserve, but that allow you to do things like we just showed on that video. That's why you have that financial stability.
Okay, but the thing is, this is a contingency account in case a bill comes in from New York State that you didn't anticipate. To give you a for instance, Manhasset has $0 in that reserve because they budgeted for it, just like you budgeted for it, which is smart to budget it for it. The $5.3 million is not needed. It's not necessary. There's no purpose for it. It's been sitting there for years. It's gone up and down from $5 million to as much as $9 million. The money needs to be returned to us.
I know Manhasset is a common point of comparison, and I have a sibling who lives in the Manhasset School District, and they are happy with the education they're getting, and I certainly wouldn't criticize what they're doing. But it is a different approach to those things. So Manhasset recently had a data breach that caused about 3 or 4 weeks of their district being down. They didn't have, it doesn't have to do with the ERS specifically, but they didn't have the resources to get that up in the way that even other districts did. Reserves are for contingencies. That 3 or 4 week downtime, which was the result of, I'm sure it's a news day, you're reading about the ransomware and people have attacked, and it could happen to anybody, obviously. Hopefully not very small manufacturing businesses, but it could happen to anybody.
Yeah, and it does,
It does, unfortunately. But they weren't equipped for it. They weren't prepared for it in the way that other districts hopefully are.
All right, but that's, again, this is a contingency account. You have $4.4 million of this community's money in a reserve for unanticipated expenses.
So I think my general answer is that I think that the pattern of this board, which this for years past, as again, you know, you've been paying attention for a long time now, which I appreciate, has been to keep those reserves on hand in case of things that can happen. Yes, the stock market, as we know, has performed extremely well over a very long time, even despite this pandemic. It's I'm not an economist. I'm just a business
It's great.
person.
It's great for everybody.
Correct, but there certainly is no guarantee for that, and that money is there for the very long term. Now, we did pull, you know, we have pulled money out of there in the past.
But it's not there for retirement.
What do you mean?
It's not being used as a contingency account to pay the bills from New York State, is my point.
But it's there.
It's never been used for that.
It's there for when you need it. That's what reserves are for.
I disagree. I completely disagree. It's the community's money. They should be getting it back. It's a contingency account to pay for a bill from New York State, which has not happened and is not likely to happen. And the money's been sitting there for over a generation, okay, of people who've gone through this community. You need to return it. You need to give the $5.3 million back to us.
I think we can respectfully disagree. I appreciate that, Jerry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions from the public? Okay, I will close. Questions, comments from the public? I shouldn't say questions, public comments from the public. It can be questions, they could be comments. But we will now move on to the action portion of our business, which are several personnel items. Do I have a motion on action 10, which are personnel items A through I?
Motion. Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Action item 11, which is the approval of a side letter with an agreement with our teachers union. Is there a motion? And a second?
Second.
Okay, any questions or comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Action 12, appointment to our committees. I'd like to name the appointments because we've had, let me just say, we have had an overwhelming and unprecedented response to our request for volunteers and help from the community. It has been, I mean, again, overwhelming and unprecedented, I just said. I don't have any more adjectives for it, but it's really been affirming in our efforts to engage the community. Dr. Dolan, we've just been really not just impressed by the number, but two other things. And this is an odd thing to say, but names that none of us have really never seen or heard before, like just new people to the process, new people to the district who are really qualified at the specific things that we're looking for. The three committees that we were looking for are an audit committee to help us publicly. Our audit committee, by the way, has the 7 of us trustees, but also 2 members of the public who are appointed because they have specific qualifications in the audit area to assist us and round out the skills of this board, which of course are through the training of the state of New York, not bad in reading school budgets and understanding finances and audit specifically, but we specifically call talent from the community to help us with this, and we received a bevy of talented applicants, really, really overwhelming. Construction steering is a subcommittee of the board that reviews all the construction projects. We have the architects, the construction engineers, our building personnel, and again, representatives from the community as well, who have specific experience in the architecture and construction trades. Again, overwhelming response. And finally, LAC, our Legislative Action Committee, which Trustee Russo referred to earlier, is a legislative advocacy arm of the board and also serves as liaison between the board for sharing information with the community at large about what we're doing. So today, when I make this motion, I'm going to add the names of the people who we are making the motion to appoint today. So appointments to the Legislative Action Committee are, try to get these in alphabetical order, Lisa Cashman, Dominic Fortunio, Brian Hanley, Matt Lippert, and Jamie Teisch. I'm reading slowly because I don't think Betty even has these necessarily. Betty, for the record, I'm extremely grateful for you too. Thank you. And to the Construction Steering Committee, we would like to appoint Thomas Pepe and Giuseppe Tulamello. And to the Audit Committee, we would like to appoint Angela Levas, and Andrew Spieler. And Betty, for the record, I didn't say this in order, but we would like in terms of the terms of the appointments for the Legislative Action Committee, we would like to appoint Mr. Fortunio and Hanley to appointments to terms that end in 2024, along with Larry Ruisi, who's been a longer standing member of the committee that's going to be reappointed tonight, and then appoint the other 3 to 2-year terms. And that leaves us with 3 current members of the committee whose terms will be expiring at the end of this school year. Did I get everything for you, Betty? Yes. Cashman, Teich, and Lippert, 2023. Yes. Yeah, Larry's re-upping, so he's 2024. And then for the record, because we do appreciate their service as well, Deb McDermott and James Versacchi and Michael DeSantis are our 3 other returning members in addition to Larry, whose terms will be expiring in 22 and who've been doing great work over there. So we thank them. So I'd like to make a motion on the appointment of all those folks as specified. I'd like to ask for a motion. Is there a motion? And a second. Thank you. That was a mouthful, a lot of mouthful. Any questions or comments? All right, all in favor? Aye, thank you. Tom, I let you go a little bit earlier because I apparently have a lot to talk about here today. Action item 13, which is the approval of a resolution regarding ballots. Is there a motion? And a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Action item 14, which is the acceptance of a donation from the Glen Head Country Club to the Leslie Scaglione Memorial Scholarship Fund. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And a second? Any questions or comments?
Just that I knew Leslie personally, and she was the most amazing and inspiring woman you've ever met. We used to quilt and donate, and she came up with all sorts of great ideas. Carnival, that was Leslie Scaglione. The outdoor areas at the Glen Head School was Leslie Scaglione. The outdoor area at the middle school was Leslie Scaglione. She's forever in our hearts, and I'm glad to see that she lives on. And as the years go by, I don't want her special brand to be forgotten here because she was just amazing.
Marianne, I really appreciate that. Testimonials like that are a huge part of making sure that doesn't happen. Thank you. Appreciate it. Other questions or comments?
A quick question.
Sure.
What is the scholarship fund reward? What is it for?
I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not like a specific subject. I'm just curious. It's a general scholarship.
General scholarship.
Wonderful.
If there are criteria, we can certainly get those and I'll forward
No,
those to the board.
just curiosity to. Great.
And I think Ms. Fawcett handles those, right? Ms. Fawcett handles the scholarship application. So there's one for Italian, there are all sorts of applications that the students can fill out in their senior year. Ms. Fawcett assists them and reviews them. And then there are different groups, depending on what the scholarship is, who makes the determination as to who gets the scholarship. There's one for music, there's one for stagecraft, there's, like I said, there's one for Italian, there's one for French, there's a huge list of it. And for those of you who have seniors, you should really apply because those monies add up if you get a few of them. It's good book money. But yeah, there's quite a number of them. There's a Noah Melnick Memorial Scholarship, and each of them have their own criteria that is available to the students in the counseling center with Ms.
Thanks,
Fawcett.
Marianne, and everyone. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Acknowledging, memorializing, and remember those members of our community who gave so much and lived through the actually do that at our award ceremony, and we actually read an excerpt at the request of the funder to remember the person who they were.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. I feel like we're gonna approve this one, guys. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Action item 15, I'm going to read this one a little bit, which is the approval of a resolution declaring the findings of the school district with respect to the proposals received for the financing of the school district's energy performance contract with Ecosystem Energy Services USA, Inc., and making certain other determinations in connection therewith. Is there a motion
Motion.
and a second? Any questions or comments on this?
Olivia, would you mind, just for the benefit of the public, giving a brief description about how we bid out the financing to cover these projects?
Yes, we always coordinate this with our fiscal advisor. They go to the market, they issue an RFP. We got about 6 responses back, and Bank of America was very, very generous, 1.497. That's about one of the cheapest financing that I've done for 15 years. And that will cover all the $7.1 million project that we have outlined in the energy performance contract.
Thank you, Olivia. I just thought it was, we got such a great rate, and it's all due to a lot of hard work, and that it wasn't, we don't just, take whatever we can get. So I thought it was worth for the public to know. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Absolutely, thank you. Other questions or comments on this? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Action 16, which is the approval of some budget transfer. Is there a motion? Okay, in a second I heard. Any questions or comments? 2 budget transfers, but nope. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Action 17, which is the approval of 2 change orders. Is there a motion?
Motion.
And I heard a second as well. Comments or discussion?
I think they look like they're decreases.
One is
Uh,
the Patriot.
Yeah.
The smaller one.
Because we took the money from the allowance, so we back it out of the allowance, which is part of the project. So there was nothing for us to pay. Came out to be 0.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Action 18, approval of contracts A and B. Is there a motion? And a second? Comments? All in favor? Aye. Action 19, which is the additions of parent members to the Committee on Special Education and Preschool Special Education. Motion?
Motion.
And the second I heard as well. Any comments or questions? The only thing I will say is last night there was a very gracious Zoom meeting held by the SEPTA organization at which Chris Marino and Joe Kistinger, Dr. Dolan and I attended, and many parents and the leadership of that organization. And it was very collaborative and helpful. And I learned a lot, and I hopefully was able to share a little bit of information about how the district, my perspective on the district, and the 5 folks that we're appointing now to this parent committee. Is it 5 or 4? 4, are certainly very ensconced in the volunteerism in that organization, which helps so many students. So if there's no other questions or comments, we can vote to appoint them. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Action 20, which is the approval of 2 special education consultant agreements. Is there a motion on A and B?
Motion.
Thank you. And a second? Thank you. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that brings us to old business, and I will move over to Dr. Dolan to start with the ad hoc committee.
Right. In fact, I have a piece of old business. At the last meeting, very late in the last meeting, a discussion was held about forming an ad hoc committee to deal with financial matters in the district. Yes.
Yes, that was something I brought up pre-pandemic that got one of the lessons learned in the pandemic is we did not get the Budget and Finance Committee underground. But Trustee Viz and I had worked on some bylaws. So she has sent me the draft, and I will review them and circulate them to the board before the next meeting. And that may be formative on our discussion as to how we would like to, I don't even think we really got to how this Budget and Finance Committee would operate. And the idea behind it was to get the community involved in seeing how the budget was put together, what not only the short-term planning, but the long-term planning. It's a different function than the audit committee, which is a historical look at the numbers. This is a more, the idea behind this would be a more futuristic look on how the budget is formed and where we need to go, and maybe some community input on priorities.
So I think that was a different bit of old business, not the one Dr. Dolan was going to be covering today. So I wouldn't mind coming back to the one Dr. Dolan was going to talk to us about.
Oh, I thought he was talking about that one.
No, that
I'm
was,
sorry.
you're talking about bylaws. That would be a more formalized budget advisory committee. This is more the ad hoc committee that we talked about at our last meeting.
And as I recall, what I was asked to do was to prepare a charge for that committee. If that committee were to be formed, I thought that a charge might be in order. And similarly, I will circulate this around the board. But the charge, based on the input that I received, goes like this. This committee will be charged with the responsibility of developing greater awareness of the budget process through education and training on general public school budgeting processes, as well as the specific process, details, and challenges of North Shore School District's budget in both the long and short term. This training would be provided by district staff. After completing this training, committee members would assist the board in our efforts to engage the community at large by sharing information about district finances and budgeting. Just a straw man to respond to based on the request that was given to me to create a charge.
Yeah, I think the more permanent committee is something I think is still makes a lot of sense. But I thought last meeting we talked about, because in part we had so many folks who had applied to these committees that we just appointed with great skills and clearly an effort to volunteer, to learn more and to engage in the district. We didn't want to lose that effort to engage them. And so we thought that this could be a good way to bring people into this more quickly, and then also use that experience to inform a more longer term with bylaws, more permanent subcommittee.
Yes, I don't think it's going to take that long though to do the more permanent one. And just thinking about the applications that we received, I can think of one person who would be perfect for communicating to the public, but there may be other people that are better suited towards the strategic planning end. So let me see if I can work on that over the weekend and try and get it out so people have a chance to percolate on it. And then maybe we can move forward with both committees. So if someone who applied would rather do one than the other, would that work? I don't know what people are thinking.
Yeah, I think okay, I think it's a good potential plan. I think we can work forward that. I think one of the things we want to do is to start at least with the ad hoc pretty soon. So I think we can get going with that. I do want to hear from other trustees how they feel about the idea of having an ad hoc committee to address budgetary issues and engagement and awareness with the charge that Dr. Dolan had shared with us. So I guess I want to hear from other trustees and see what you think. Lisa, then Maria, and then thank you. Sorry, hold on just one moment. Thank you to our administrators. We appreciate it very much, but y'all have school tomorrow. Thank you. Okay, sorry, Lisa?
I was just going to say that I am wholly in favor of it. I think that we should not lose this momentum. We had so many great applicants, and we want to keep the engagement going. So I think it's a great idea. I'm totally in favor of the ad hoc committee.
Maria, then Rich, is your light on? Sorry, your light on.
I'll say ditto to what Lisa said, although I'm eager to actually be able to absorb by reading the charge that Dr. Dolan just read out. It's late and I didn't absorb every bit of it, so I'm eager to see that as well as the bylaws.
I think you'll anticipate getting some information from Marianne and me over the weekend, and fortuitously,
that's great.
Our next meeting is establishing budget priorities. So both in terms of the budget and process, the budget process it might fit in well.
Yeah, I think, right, one of the things I think I'm hearing about a difference between these also, not just the timing, but the charge for the ad hoc committee is a little bit broader than just the budget and finance target of the more permanent committee. Or maybe I really am too tired to, I'm sorry.
So I guess I think, to me, the difference is one is sort of more, because last year, as Marianne said, we got a lot of information supplied by the administration of what comparable districts had done, and we had some evaluative work in that area. And generally, what those districts who have done it has been more of a budgetary advisory committee, where they go through essentially a budget education process, somewhat similar, potentially very similar to the one we went through, to understand how school budgets work,
Right.
and then see our process, and at some point, as being participants in that process, interact with the board to make recommendations or suggestions or comments and thoughts. I think that this committee is more, we have folks in this year of engagement that we want to capture now to understand the budgeting this year, to help demystify the process, to help, I guess, learn the intricacies of it so they can understand it better and communicate it better, to help, again, better than other formats or in addition to other formats, help reduce, I guess, misinformation on their part about what's going on, and also to increase awareness of what's going on.
So, and we're talking about the applicants to all three committees, correct? Or are we mostly talking about the
I think that is up for discussion amongst the board.
Right, okay, great.
And I think we should think also not just the applicants that applied, but since these are different types of committees,
Mhm.
opening it up to new applicants. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't want to gather as many people.
That's true. And I think one of the things that was mentioned was we could potentially have, I agree with that completely. We could have potentially a budget committee for financial professionals, of whom we saw very, very many apply, and then a budget committee for interested community members.
I guess my one
Sure.
concern I just want to put out there is that though I am struggling because the applicants were so strong and it was so impressive to have that interest and very interested in capturing it. I'm just a little concerned about proliferation of committees and that we don't create so much overhead that that we just become committee management people. We already have a lot of standing committees, and this isn't to say that we shouldn't be considering it, but just that the bylaws and the charge are really critical pieces of making sure that we don't it's like having a meeting to have a meeting, sort of where the committees are just reproducing faster than we can keep track of them.
I think, Lisa, that it's really a little different. I think the budget, as they work in other districts, from what we ascertained, is that they would come to our board meetings where we're discussing the budget and give input there. I don't know how many meetings there would be before that, but I think that particular one is really timed into the budgetary process, and I don't know how you would discuss that as a board without notice and having it live streamed, unless it was a very small subcommittee, which I don't really think that's how it was envisioned. But I'll go back and look at my notes. The ad hoc committee, I think that's a different charge,
Yeah,
right? So those
yeah.
would be people that maybe host their own budget coffees or think of different ways of, working with the community on greater understanding, just more eyes and ears. I'm not necessarily sure. I mean, we'll have to talk about that. Does that involve the board? I mean, I think it's a valid concern. I'm not dismissing it. I'm just thinking it through.
To me, that seems like a pretty good summary. I think that the advisory committee, and that's why, of course, you need the bylaws, because there is that involvement. And so now you're stepping into legal matters, where I think that these ad hoc committees would be, they would certainly receive some training in a session or in, a session or two in some way. We would certainly be encouraging attendance at the board meetings where we do that, but it would be for viewing, other than, of course, the podium is always open. And then host events like budget coffees, et cetera. So the question is, could the administration be able to spear that as part of our engagement efforts?
As I wrote the charge, I assumed that it would be the administration that would be providing that training. Yes.
Well, you could do it all. This fits under all. So I think, unless there's any objection to it, I think we'll move ahead with that. Mary Ann, we look forward to getting moving ahead with the bylaw part 2. And yeah, 2 tracks. I like it. Great. Is there other old business that folks had?
Just what
Sure.
I mentioned earlier. I'll have to do a little more research, but and reach out to some resources that we have here. But would it be possible if we found something to give LAC another charge in their already long list? And I know that Dr. Dolan is meeting with CASA and see if there's any see what CASA's up to. I don't want to, they're a separate organization. We did support them in the past, but they are a separate organization. And if they're working on that, I don't want to step on anyone's toes.
Okay, good. So you got the Dr. Dolan?
I really carefully heard what you said about insurance issues and therapy and interventions like that, and I know that might be something CASA would want to hear more about. I've been working with them. We're planning an event for early in November, and I'll certainly bring this up with them and test their interest and capacity.
Sharon
you.
Richmond, the teacher in Glen Head, is very active on this topic. She speaks publicly about it, so she might be a good point person.
I've already emailed her.
And I was in her classroom today. I was in Karen's classroom today, where I was astounded to find several hundred red ribbons sitting over on the radiator, waiting to be handed out. And she showed me several projects that her kids were working on, and I agree. Her commitment, her dedication to the cause is noteworthy, and she'd be a great person to involve.
Great.
Lisa Berg too is also a great resource.
Great. Other old business?
I do. I'm going to put it under old business, even though I guess it's a little old new business. I know, Tom, you mentioned the homework emails that we received over the last couple of days, and you connected it to the lessons learned presentation, which I really appreciated. And I just want to make sure that we are looking into these concerns, because I feel that over the years of being a trustee, we have received a lot of similar type of emails. And I am concerned that we haven't really addressed the homework spike in 6th grade that we know about, and the homework spike in 9th grade that we know about. And given the pandemic, and we've spoken a lot just tonight about substance use issues and mental health issues, that I want to make sure that we're doing our job as a school not to further compound those issues with meaningless homework and unnecessary testing. And I say that not just from a lot of parents who have spoken to me about it, but my own lived experience with it. So I just want to make sure that we're proactive regarding this.
Okay, thank you.
And appropriately reactive. As you know, anybody who sends an email, I know the board sees them, and I think that you see that they get a response. Last night, in the midst of our SEPTA meeting, we received an email that Dr. Zublionis received as well, and there I was sitting in the SEPTA meeting, and I saw that he responded, and he responded well. The person who wrote to me today also wrote to the board. I responded on your behalf. Very actionable items in both of those emails, and I know Chris and I have some good conversations ahead of us on it. And frankly, I do need to catch up a little bit on what work has been done by the homework committee in the past, and I look forward to doing that.
I would also echo that Trustee McCarry's statement about the 6th grade. It was ridiculous. It was a lot of project-based work that was not meaningful. And they would go in 6th grade, they would be killed, and then in 7th and 8th grade, they would get next to no homework. It's ridiculous. 9th grade, I think a lot of it comes from at least in my experience, I saw the rigor increase in the high school, which was, I think, preparatory for more advanced courses. So global, in particular, history, if you were doing like pre-AP global, had a ton of work in reading. So that may be more course specific, but I know that part of the reason why the homework load increased in ninth grade was actually not sufficient, maybe homework in eighth grade, to sort of, enough rigor there, but really primarily because they were trying to give the students better writing skills so that when they were faced with these more advanced courses and regions, that they were better prepared. And I think part of it was really catch up for not having in the past the proper foundation in elementary and middle school. I mean, I think that dynamic has changed with the workshop model, so it may be easier to do. But I think a lot of that extra work in ninth grade really stemmed from a good intent to prepare kids down the road for those more rigorous courses that required extensive writing skills.
Okay.
So just one other thing.
Yeah,
So
please.
Tom, we do have this homework policy. It's worth looking at. The homework committee met, I think we met over 13 times. And we have specific guidelines time-wise. And I know, like, if we just look at the middle school guideline, it was about 45 minutes a night. And if we go back to the challenge success survey, the students were reporting over double of that. So it was like over an hour and a half worth of homework. And that doesn't even take into account the number of tests that are happening. And if you think of sixth graders, they're still only 11 years old.
Okay, good. Thank you, Andrea.
I think maybe Lisa, I see Lisa.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you didn't know, but
Well,
Lisa.
I was just gonna say, the challenge success survey kind of echoed the survey that we did, the homework committee did. So we did a survey, we sent it out, and there was a spike in sixth grade. And then we did the challenge success survey a few years later, and then there was the spike in sixth grade after we had already written a homework policy to try to alleviate that spike. So, definitely, there was so much thought and research put into that homework policy, based on the multiple surveys that we did, based on, just, so much data that we went through.
So it is frustrating to see that what's happening in real life it doesn't really mimic what the policy's intent was.
Okay. I guess we have moved into new, did we segue to new business? I think we did. Yes,
Oh, sorry. If we did, I have new business.
I think we did, please.
So I was just wondering if we could get an update on the status of our search for a permanent middle school principal.
You ready now?
Yeah.
Okay. That's totally fine. If you're ready, whenever you're ready, of course you can go, but just.
I can give a thumbnail, sure. Because as the board knows, we're in the midst of a search right now for an assistant director for special education. That one's out. We have received almost 50 applications. We're going to be working on that one. I would anticipate the middle school permanent principal position being next. Way back in the summer, seems like forever ago, I think I proposed doing that at mid-year, doing the search such that someone could be appointed successfully before the year ended, because there might be time, if it is an outside candidate, there might be time before they can be here to start the year. So I believe that we'll be able to do that as we get closer to the holiday season.
Thanks, Tom. I do recall that we had that conversation and I had forgotten.
No,
so just
I barely remember it. So.
So very roughly, we would look maybe at seeing a posting before
Posting December, and this is, give or take a couple of weeks. Posting December, collection in January, interviews February, hopefully an appointment March, April, because if the person needed to give notice in another district, we would want to give them time
Right,
such that
okay.
they could be here on July 1, and that would allow us to have a person in place on July 1 to start the school year.
Great, thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Other new business?
I do.
All right.
A topic that is very appropriately, I think, brought up in public, and that is something I've learned about the district. I'm still learning, and that is the very, very, very fine tradition that the district has had relative to foreign travel. There have been several trips that I've learned about, and so when I turn the page, I see another, and I'm amazed at some of the trips that have taken place, and I always reflect for just a moment at what an incredible impact that must have had on kids. There is discussion this year about foreign travel. Well, it's not foreign, but there is a trip that the cheerleaders are hoping to take part in for the national competition to Florida, which was submitted way back last year and has not been acted upon. No money has been collected on that one. I confirmed that today. There is a proposed French trip, and while that trip usually involves an exchange, this year they have modified the trip to propose a straight trip to France with chaperones. That one has been researched pretty heavily, but again, no money has been collected on that one yet. But then there is another trip that I think the board might know about, and that was a Latin trip to Italy that in fact was planned for last year and was canceled. And I do need to correct something I said, because I thought that none of these trips had already been financed, but in fact, that one, the money has been collected for, the Latin trip to Italy, proposed for February of 2022. I'm a huge proponent of foreign travel. It's Mark Twain's quote, I believe, travel is fatal to prejudice. I love that quote, and I think it is absolutely true. But, witness our presentation tonight, we're still not there yet. And I think it is a careful consideration the district needs to take. And what I would like to hear from the board tonight and moving forward is what information the board would need to have to consider a trip if such trips were to be contemplated for this school year.
If the model of the French trip is changing because the students and faculty chaperones, they used to go basically for 3 weeks. Is the time going to change now that they're not staying with families?
Yes, it would be a 1-week trip, and it would be a trip straight to France, just similar to the Italy trip, without any exchange at all. They would stay in hotels as opposed to staying in people's houses.
Well, that alleviates a concern. My kids did not do the exchange trip, but they did both do 2 music tours while they were here, and they both did the Latin trip to Italy. They were very enriching experiences. We did have friends who engaged in the foreign exchange trips, and they were amazing experiences. The downside to those trips were that the students and the teachers were out 3 weeks. 1 week, I believe, was vacation, but 2 weeks was academic. And the students who were not selected, because there's not everyone can go. I think there's like 22 kids that selected to go. It's just for the exchange, because you have to host the children. If your child goes, you have to be committed to taking another child into your home. And the teachers were out of the classroom for essentially 2 weeks, which left the students who remained in the classroom with substitute teachers who were not necessarily qualified. So there was really, it was, I think, prejudicial to those students who were not selected, in the sense that no real learning was going on. I also think the fact that it's not an exchange trip does alleviate some of the COVID concerns of people going into, students going into someone's home. We would have to have some discussion about vaccination requirements to satisfy me. We'd have to have some discussions about insurance and refund policies. If, at the last minute, not only did we have a problem or the student have a problem, but maybe the country would shut down to foreign travel. And I don't believe you can get into France unless you're vaccinated. I think that is not our requirement. I believe that's France's requirement. And the other concern that I would have that would really need to be addressed, because it happens every trip, some child gets sick, generally mine. And what happens if a child is diagnosed with COVID? Because you have to take a COVID test to get back on the plane to get into the US. What precautions are we taking? Would a chaperone be required to stay with that child? Where would they stay? How would they get home? I mean, you're talking, they could be quarantined for 10 days, 2 weeks even. So how is that handled? And how do you pay for that? Because, remember, you're paying your faculty their regular salary for any day that they would normally be paid, plus a chaperone fee. And now you've got to pay a substitute teacher, and you've got a classroom full of kids that potentially don't have their teacher back. So those are kind of like my concerns that would have to be worked through. But I will tell you that my kids have traveled more than I have. They've both been to Italy. One has been to Spain. One was the first high school band to perform in Cuba. So and they're memorable experiences. I'm not sure how educational they were, but they had a darn good time. And they saw another part of the world that maybe they wouldn't have seen.
It would appear at least one of your concerns has been heard, because both the French and Latin trip are proposed for the February break. Only 2 days. In the case of the French trip, they would leave 2 days before the break. The Latin trip matches the February break perfectly.
It always has. They leave in the school. The one for the Latin trip,
Okay.
they always bring their suitcases to school,
Mhm.
and they leave like at noon from school.
Okay.
Are they contracting through a tour group, or are the faculty members designing the trip? Because I know you had mentioned for the science trip to, like, were they going to Costa Rica, I guess?
Mhm.
The tour group, the tour company would take the responsibility of chaperoning in the event that one of the students had to be left behind. Is that going to be a similar situation with these trips?
They are both working with a travel agent. I have the names of the agents, and both agents are quoted here, answering some of those concerns. Frankly, one better than the other. One is, I think, exactly what we would want to hear about what would happen if someone tested positive and whatnot. The other one, a little less assuring, case-by-case basis kind of language. But I would think that the requirement we held for that Costa Rica trip would be similar, including, my assumption all along has been vaccination.
Mhm.
And as Trustee Russo says, I think it's required for both of these countries anyway. So I will follow up with those companies and see how rigorous those requirements can be.
Just if you're looking for general feedback, I want to echo a lot of what Marianne, I know Rich's was more detailed, but what both of them have said. Hugely support the benefits of travel for these kids. For seeing a world beyond North Shore. My concerns are about the contingencies. What if they get stuck? What if they get sick? What if something happens and not enough kids are going, and that changes the price to cover the required chaperones? So I would like to hear for all of these trips the what ifs and answers to them that are somehow feasible. And if so, I mean, we are starting to open up more. So if people want to go, it is ultimately up to the, up to the tolerance level for each individual family. But if they're up for it, and we have chaperones who want to do it, I'm on board.
I guess I'm curious, are other schools holding these types of events or no?
Great question. And that market research was very important to me. And it's kind of it's all over. Some districts, East Meadow still has trips planned and are still on. Hewlett-Woodmere has canceled. Jericho has no trips. Northport has no trips this year. However, Comsawag, Sewanaka, Long Beach, Malvern, North Babylon, Miller Place are all planning trips for either this year or this summer, by way of full disclosure. Some are putting it off till the summer. Those trips that I've referenced are all European except one to Costa Rica. Yes, Portugal, Spain, Italy, England, Switzerland, England and France, and one a grand European tour, and Greece.
I guess I worry I worry about everything that everybody mentions because I worry about everything. But I do worry that they take the COVID test on their way home, right? And then they come back to school on a Monday, and it takes a few days for COVID to sort of take hold. So they test negative to get here, but then once they're here, a few days later, they end up testing positive for COVID, and now they've brought their virus into the school and the ramifications that can have on all the children who did not go on the trip.
One of the trips, believe it or not, and I, by the way, I have to give Anna Aguiar all the credit. Any research I have sitting in front of me was because last week when we met, I said to Anna, I kind of predicted a lot of these questions you'll be pleased to hear. And she has put together some information. And for example, with the French trip, Trustee McCary, the group will go to a testing center 3 days prior to departure. The chaperone will set up appointment times upon their arrival in France. The students do have to pay for the test. It's more expensive than it is here, but that testing would, in fact, take place 3 days before. I would imagine we would probably want testing when they returned as well.
Right.
And luckily, as of now, we're doing testing right here.
I'm not sure, the timing requirement is 72 hours, so they have to be careful if they go 3 days before, if it'll be accepted getting on the plane. So, I mean, that's just a small detail. I just came back from foreign travel, and they actually do a different kind of test in Europe, and you can get it within 40 minutes, your results. So, and it's the same test that it's the antigen test, which is available. It's about $25. It's also available in Europe. But I think the other things we're going to have to look at is the vaccination rates in the proposed countries that they're going to. So I was in Mexico last week, and I was pleasantly surprised to find out that their vaccination rate in the area I was in was 85 to 90%. All the employees were vaccinated. Your only concern was, if you ran into a crazy American. But other than that, I think these countries, many of them are doing better on the vaccination rates than we are in the U.S., and they actually may be safer in doing foreign travel than doing domestic travel.
That was going to be my point, is if you look at these maps, the darkness of color of hotspots are not constrained to overseas.
Right. And isn't that interesting that one of the other trips that's being proposed is to Florida, and certainly not to besmirch the Sunshine State, but we know that the rates there are not great. That is a cheerleading trip that was proposed for the Nationals, a shorter trip, but a hotter spot.
I was just going to say that, children can travel with their families to Europe, right, or Mexico, or wherever, and come back to school,
Florida.
or Florida, and not. I don't know. I can't think straight this late either. But we don't require any testing from when people come back from traveling. So I'm not as concerned about that. I think the other concerns about getting stuck somewhere would be.
I have another question that's sort of related to equity. For many years, contractually, the only foreign trip that was covered in terms of chaperone fees by the district were the foreign language trips. And I understood why that was, because it was such an extensive trip and it was costly to begin with. But these other trips now, and again, it was contractual, the chaperone fees had to be covered by the families, and I had some issues personally because I thought it was exclusionary for some kids. Now that this is changing, and Olivia, you would know this, did the contract change? Are the foreign language trips pretty much the same as the other ones now, or is that still in the contract that the district picks up the cost of the chaperones?
It depends. If it's considered an educational trip, then the district is supposed to pay for it. But if it's not educational and it's not part of the instructional program, then it's deemed discretionary, and the parents are responsible for picking up the entire cost.
So in this particular case, based upon the changes that you're suggesting, I would tend to think that would be more in line with something like the Costa Rica trip. So in that particular case, the families are responsible for the costs incurred for the chaperones. It's just, these trips are wonderful. They really are. I mean, I've been involved with several. I've taken kids to Europe. But you run that fine line because some kids just can't afford to do it. So I know when I used to do it, I used to run tons of fundraising activities, and I was able to take the kids to England for a week, and it cost the kids $400 to go. But I also worked my butt off for like a year in advance to make that happen. I'm not patting myself on the back, but I don't see that happening anymore.
I think, Rich, that we paid the chaperone fees for Italy and for the music tour.
The music tour, yes. And I don't want to get into it, but there was a reason that was a sore spot. So yes, you were supposed to pay for it. One year it didn't happen. But those other trips, they were covered. But as I said, it was spelled out in black and white in the teacher's contract that those foreign language trips, chaperone fees were covered by the district. And again, I haven't read the most recent contract in quite a while, so I don't know if it's still there or not.
I thought when Article 10 changed, that both the cost of the Belize trip which is now Costa Rica.
Yeah,
I
but
thought
what I'm
both
saying,
the cost of the Belize trip and the Latin trip went up.
Yeah, but the Belize trip definitely did. But what I'm saying is, historically, the trip to Spain and the trip to France, the district always covered the cost of the chaperones.
You may very well be true because we didn't do those trips, and I'm sure you're right, since
I
you
know
were
they
in
did,
charge
'cause
of
I
that.
used to do the paperwork.
Yeah,
so.
I know you were in charge of that. I do know in the music tours that prior to Cuba, the travel agency had, they had a raffle where the kids would sell tickets for a weekend in Paris that the travel company sponsored. I'm sure somehow that was worked into the price of the ticket. But many children were able to sell enough raffle tickets to substantially subsidize that trip. I know there were car washes, but it was a lot of work, and I don't know. I know there was no fundraising for the Latin trip. I could tell you that for a fact.
No,
Either time, none.
I'm aware because one of my kids went on that one as well. So.
Yeah.
It's a good point, though, the idea of equity, making sure and how we do that. I think I didn't raise it earlier, but I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did, Rich, because ensuring that these don't become inaccessible to all of our students is a factor, and is certainly a priority to this board. So that's another area we want you to look at, Tom.
That one, Eric and I did meet with Anna, and equity is an issue. It is. The cheerleaders, interestingly, are doing a lot of fundraising. They're doing a lot of things, and they're going to try to bring the cost down for the Italy trip, which has already been collected and paid for. And the French trip, I'm not aware whether they had considered fundraising or not, but I can ask.
The other interesting question I think I would ask for the cheerleaders is the competition requiring all the cheerleaders to be vaccinated?
They are
Because
not.
some of the sports are requiring the athletes to be vaccinated. So that would be an area of inquiry as well.
The competition is not. I've operated from an assumption that since we required it for Costa Rica, that we would require it moving forward for any trip, and that would include Florida.
No, the reason why I asked about the competition would be exposure, right? Because they're not going to just be with our cheerleaders, right? They're
Correct.
going to be with
Yep.
other cheerleaders, and there are breakthrough cases. And if the competition were requiring vaccination, that would be just another additional safety measure in place. So that's why I asked the question.
Tom, do you have the feedback you needed?
I do, and I appreciate the approach. I really do. You know, these are thoughtful questions. Some of them are answered, I'm happy to say. Again, Anna Aguiar did a great job. And I do, and I will get to work on providing that information to the board before further plans are made.
Okay. Is there other old business before we adjourn? All right.
Not at this hour.
Okay. I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
And a second. There we go. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.